Just ahead, Congressman Louis Gohmert on the border mess, what the president has planned, and how Congress can stop it. In Hour 2, I'll explain what Ronald Reagan called his 80% rule and why Washington needs to remember it, especially now. And in our third hour, meet the Florida legislator who likes the new Dinesh D'Souza film so much he wants to make it a law that school kids have to watch it. We can't make you watch America's Forum, but we can invite you to do so, especially since it begins right now. No, we didn't send an engraved invitation. We just a verbal invitation. We're glad you're taking us up on it. Backed by the resources of Newsmax.com. This is America's Forum, Hour 1 for this Tuesday. I'm J.D. Hayworth.
And I'm John Bachman. J.D., no formal invitation necessary in this increasingly paperless digital world we're living in.
That's true. So we did a television, a video. I'm trying to figure out the way to describe the invitation.
Multi-platform.
That's right.
You are so.
I'm not so webby. You are totally with the tech talk.
Well, we try to cover everybody from every angle, including the angles you specialize in, the angles I specialize in, and that includes some of the top stories from today. Let's get started with the Newsmax Now update. And there's more proof today that we could be entering a sort of new Cold War here. U.S. officials are now accusing Russia of violating a landmark 1987 arms control treaty. Intelligence sources now confirming that Russia has tested prohibited mid-range ballistic cruise missiles. And the New York Times says it, quote, is the most serious allegation of an arms control treaty violation that the Obama administration has leveled against Russia. NATO's top commander also says the issue demands a response. The White House sent a tersely worded letter to Putin yesterday, pressing for high-level dialogue on the matter. Now, here's more information about that treaty. In 1987, President Ronald Reagan and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev agreed to ban American and Russian ground-launched ballistic or cruise missiles capable of flying 300 to 3,400 miles. The decision helped seal the end of the Cold War, and it has been regarded as a cornerstone of American-Russian arms control efforts. The U.S. has notified Russia and plans again to discuss the issue to get Russia back on track and into compliance with that intermediate-range nuclear forces treaty, but will it be enough? Meantime, back here at home, the issue of immigration reform and the border crisis continue to fester with no solution in sight. And during an exclusive interview with Senator Jeff Sessions, the Alabama Republican tells Newsmax TV that Congress should be more assertive in using the power of the purse to push back against the White House, and any amnesty-style executive order would be, as Senator Sessions put it, excuse me, an incredible assertion of executive power.
It would be an incredible assertion of executive power vis-a-vis Congress and alter the constitutional framework in a way that the founders would never have accepted. Plain law says if you're in this country illegally, you're subject to deportation and you are unable to work lawfully in our country.
Well, on Monday, Sessions also took his effort to thwart the White House's threats of executive orders to the floor of the U.S. Senate. The president has proposed a plan that could grant amnesty to millions of illegal immigrants who have already arrived in the U.S. And now an update on that American doctor and aid worker who have both contracted the Ebola virus. The latest reports say Dr. Kent Brantley, who works for the charity organization Samaritan's Purse, is fighting for his life and is in grave condition. He's suffering from fever, headache, and abdominal pain. Dr. Brantley is in an isolation unit for Ebola patients on the outskirts of Liberia's capital. Yesterday, he wrote in an email that, quote, I'm praying fervently that God will help me survive this disease. A second American aid worker, Nancy Wright-Ball, has also tested positive. Now in Israel, today, 2 Israeli tank shells hit the only power plant inside Gaza. Also, the IDF hit strategic and symbolic targets like the home of Hamas's leader, as well as Hamas-controlled radio and TV stations. Also, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is now telling the world that Israel's war in Gaza will be, quote, prolonged. Israel says that it is defending their people against attacks from Gaza by hitting Hamas rocket launchers, weapons storage sites, and military tunnels. Also back here in the States, 2 U.S. Marshals and 1 New York City police officer are recovering after a shootout with a fugitive in Lower Manhattan. The fugitive was shot and killed after he tried to flee and then engaged these law enforcement officers. Investigators say Charles Mosdier skipped town after being accused of molesting a child. His .32 caliber revolver was recovered at the crime scene. Remember, handguns are illegal in New York City, All 3 of the officers were in stable condition. And in California, a relentless air effort is helping limit the spread of a wildfire in Yosemite National Park. The fire burned through more than 4 square miles. So far, it's about 5% contained. However, officials say incoming thunderstorms could either bring in much-needed rain or lightning strikes, which could spark more fires.
As you see the fires there, John, reminds me of my days in the Congress, and especially in the West, how many of these fires would spring up during the summer with the dry conditions and the wind. We've seen them in Washington State. You see them now at Yosemite, and in that situation, it's one that I can actually give California some credit. They actually grandfathered in rules that lets the state be far more aggressive than the federal government might be in fighting many of these fires.
All right, JD, I think they're telling us now that we have that interview prepared here. You did shortly a few moments ago with Louie Gohmert. Let's take a listen in to what you and Louie Gohmert talked about on the immigration issue.
Well, John, as you mentioned just a few minutes ago, President Obama is planning to issue an executive order granting a so-called expansion of rights for millions of illegal immigrants, including issuing work permits. So how is this news being received by those serving in Congress? Let's call on one of those members of Congress, my old colleague Louie Gohmert, Republican of Texas, a member of the House Judiciary Committee. Louie, good morning. Thanks for calling in. And let me begin by this so-called expansion of rights. Is this amnesty, pure and simple?
Absolutely. It's amnesty. They try to say, well, it's prosecutorial discretion. No, discretion is not when you give a blanket amnesty like he did to over 553,000 people. That's what U.S. Customs and Immigration Service own numbers have shown since this president started this program. Over 553,000 amnesties already. I mean, holy smokes, this guy truly is fundamentally transforming America, but not into anything that the framers and the founders ever dreamed. These are people who are being given amnesty, who will eventually be able to vote if they're not already, who have no idea what it takes to maintain a republic if you can keep it, madam. This is so critical what he is doing in the way of damaging this country. And if you want to say, well, gee, look where these folks came from, you know, we've got to give them amnesty, we've got to help them. Listen, there are so many children around the world that are worse off than those in Central America. And how unfair is it to the Mexicans? I don't know why this president is so extremely prejudiced against Mexicans. They said, no, if you're from Mexico, we'll turn you right around and send you right back. But if you're from Central America, nah, come on, we'll send you all over the United States. We'll let you stay. You think some of the people in Mexico aren't as afraid of the drug cartels as the people in Central America? I mean, this is a policy to transform America. It's not a policy to specifically help people. If it were, then it would be more consistent.
And Louie, moreover, plenty of those people from Mexico can say, hey, I'm from Nicaragua or I'm from Guatemala.
Oh,
they
sure.
don't have, so it's rife for fraud, the opportunities. Now, Politico has an article.
And that's a great point, JD, and it's worth reinforcing. When the people come, you know, I've been on the border and spent late nights, all nights nearly with Border Patrol, and as people come up, usually one in the group will have a Xerox piece of paper, but they'll admit they've been told, don't bring anything but this piece of paper. Take this piece of paper. And one guy had the wrong piece of paper. It said El Salvador, and so no, that's my piece of paper. Here's your piece of paper. Oh, here's my piece of paper. One said Honduras, one said El Salvador, and he got the wrong piece of paper. I mean, there's no identities that come with these folks. And they just come across, and then we're supposed to accept whatever they tell us without any further identification. That's bad news in and of itself.
Well, Louie, moving along, Politico features an article saying if President Obama goes through with these big unilateral moves he's promising on immigration, there may be no way to stop him. Do you agree with that assessment?
No, there's plenty of ways to stop him, but it does require extreme courage by the House of Representatives to stand up and say, there is nothing else being funded for your White House until you stop this lawlessness. But that takes courage, to stand up, because the mainstream media will not point out the fact that we're standing up to save the Constitution. They'll stand up and say, "Oh, you're just prejudiced. You don't really care about anything but politics." No, we care about saving the Constitution and the constitutional functions that this president has already run roughshod over. The prior order that legalized over 553,000 people, he had said before, so we know this was a knowing, glaring unconstitutional action. He told one audience, "No, I'd like to give amnesty, but I can't do it without Congress." Well, then later when Congress didn't do it, he said, "Okay, Congress won't do it, so I'm signing a new law. It didn't pass the House, didn't pass the Senate, but it passed my lips, so now it's the law." That's as unconstitutional as it gets, and we should have stopped him there. But it takes more courage to stand up, and the way we're playing politics is when we don't stand up, we're afraid the voters may hold it against us. But I think if you stand up and do the right thing in the long run, that's better politically.
Now, I want to pursue what you're talking about, Louis, because your background before coming to Congress, you actually were a judge. Another guy who spent time as a judge serving in the Senate, Jeff Sessions of Alabama, and he's talking about, in essence, Congress creating its own legislative order to stop the president. Is it along the lines of what you're discussing, just a moratorium on any more spending by this president until he drops this notion of amnesty by decree?
Yeah, that's the power that the founders gave us, and Jeff is exactly right. And it's interesting, some of us that have been judges before we came here, I left the bench because I wanted to change federal law, and I knew that it was unconstitutional for a judge to do it. So I left the bench in order to run for the legislature so that I could help make the laws. This guy left the legislature to go to the presidency, and he's legislating more now than he ever did in the Illinois Senate or in the U.S. Senate. He's not just voting president, he's actually making law by himself.
Louis, let's bring this thing back to the border in the couple of minutes we have left. Down in your state, your governor, Rick Perry, said Texas would be sending National Guardsmen to the border. What is the latest on the governor's order, and what are the Guardsmen doing there?
Well, as I understand it, they're not there yet, and that they will be coming soon. I love George W. Bush. You and I served in the House together when he was president. But when he sent the National Guard down, actually, they didn't go to the border. They stayed back some 60, 100 miles away. And I remember one getting a unit citation because they saw heavily armed drug smugglers coming near them, 60 miles from the border, radioed it in, and then fled their position, and they won a unit citation for excellence for following their orders.
Hey, there's another hard-to-believe thing. You mentioned the absurdity of that situation with Guardsmen more as observers than Guardsmen. This is something that happened Monday afternoon. Maybe you saw it while it was going on. The video shot by the Fox affiliate in Washington, D.C. Illegal immigrants picketing the White House Monday afternoon, calling on fellow immigrant rights advocacy groups to refuse to meet with the Obama administration until the president specifically includes illegals in any future meetings. What do you make of this? We've got less than a minute.
Well, they can't possibly be illegal because we're told all the illegals are in the shadows, and I didn't see any shadows on their faces. They were out there in the bright sunlight. So either illegals are not in the shadows like we're being told, or they are out in the open, and it's not like they're saying, "Oh, we can't possibly deport illegals." Well, when they come out and say, I'm illegal, I demand this, that, or the other, and say, okay, you are going to get the law that you demanded. The law is in place, and here we need you to step right in here. We're taking you to our border. You are not allowed in this country. You've got to do things legally before you can demand legality.
Louis Gohmert, Republican congressman from Texas, a member of the House Judiciary Committee. We thank you very much for your time and your insights.
Thanks so much, J.D. Appreciate you, brother.
Technology gives you security. Technology gives you control. And now, technology gives you home security and control in a new and revolutionary way. Introducing Plug and Protect from LiveWatch Security, an easy-to-use wireless security system customized just for your home, controlled from any smartphone, tablet, or computer, and monitored by professionals 24/7. Go to livewatch.com to get Plug and Protect interactive security delivered to your door. Arm or disarm your system from anywhere. Lock or unlock your doors. Turn your lights off or on. Even oversee your home with live video. With Plug and Protect, your security system is configured, tested, and then shipped directly to your home. No wires, no installers, just peel and place. Go to livewatch.com because with Plug and Protect, we customize your security to fit your home. The Plug and Protect secret is technology. With technology, you buy airline tickets without a travel agent. You trade stocks without a stockbroker. Now, with Plug and Protect, you can protect your home without an installer, pushy salesman, or a long contract.
Every day, the kids got out of school before I left work. I worried whether they were home okay. But then I found Plug and Protect from LiveWatch. And now I see when they open the front door, so I know they're home safe. LiveWatch helps me stay in touch and in control.
Founded by a paramedic in Kansas, serving tens of thousands of homes in all 50 states, and trusted by policemen and firemen throughout the country, LiveWatch is the new choice for home security. No door-to-door salespeople, no messy installers, no long-term contracts, just Plug and Protect. Now you too can enjoy the home security and control you want for your family. Try Plug and Protect in your home for a full 90 days. Included is our hassle-free guarantee. Go to livewatch.com. Plug and Protect is not available in stores, so go to livewatch.com right now. That's livewatch.com.
If you're one of the 15 million Americans with food allergies, you might feel anxious about dining out. But you don't have to be. Visit safeair.org for more information and resources to help you enjoy a safer restaurant experience.
A public service message from Food Allergy Research and Education.
Alongside John Bogman, J.D. Hayworth, welcoming you back to America's Forum. John, I know you've been checking the calendar. We're under 100 days to the midterms, and there's a whole lot of buzz about the United States Senate possibly changing hands.
Oh, J.D., I thought you were going to say we were less than 35 days from the start of college football.
Well,
Sorry.
that's something else we keep an eye on, too.
One thing at a time. One thing
right.
at a time. Yes, of course. Very exciting and a lot cooking out there, and a lot of new political ads and political campaigns, so to speak, right now ahead of these midterms.
Campaigns within campaigns, not so much candidate versus candidate as party versus party. A campaign to clean up the Senate, Republicans not surprisingly saying Democrat Majority Leader Harry Reid has to go. The Republican National Committee launching the campaign called Fire Harry Reid. The movement targets 12 states with robocalls in addition to social media. Here to discuss this push to change the Senate, the chairman of the Republican National Committee, Reince Priebus. Mr. Chairman, thanks for Skyping in from Washington here on America's Forum.
Thank you, Congressman. Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Well, Reince, let's talk about this thing. Fire Harry Reid. Now, a campaign in 2010, Fire Nancy Pelosi seemed to work. Guess you guys are thinking a variation on that theme can work in this midterm.
Well, I think it has to. I mean, in order for us to start functioning and getting some of these bills through, as you know, over 300 bills are sitting in Harry Reid's desk, and the president's out there campaigning about obstruction and the Republican Party. And, you know, we have to highlight, I think, for the American people, the fact that, in fact, it's the House that's passing hundreds of bills to get people back to work. And it's Harry Reid that isn't even grabbing onto even the most simple bills like this Skills Act, which is connecting people to job training. And, you know, we're talking about, yeah, there's some big things, obviously, like Keystone Pipeline, but there are some bills here sitting on his desk that most normal people in America would read and say, well, what's the problem with this? So, look, I think that we've got to get a Republican Senate. Obviously, then I think we can start boxing the president in on some of these bills. And then, obviously, if he doesn't want to at least do some things that are reasonable next year, then obviously we have to win the White House. So Harry Reid stands in the way, Congressman, and no person knows more about all of that than you do. But seriously, I think we need to make it a part of the campaign here for the fall and illustrate to the American people that who controls the Senate is important to what actually happens here in Washington, D.C.
And to that end, you're headed up the block to the United States Capitol to kick off this campaign this afternoon. But speaking of the word campaign, I noticed you use that in connection with President Obama. And it's interesting with the campaigning the president continues to do. A new Fox News poll has come out, and it says voters are saying the president needs to stay off the campaign trail. Here's the question asked. If you were running for office as a Democratic candidate this year, would you want President Obama to campaign for you? 41% of respondents said yes, 57% said no. You couple that with the continued fundraising. What do you think this portends for the Obama White House?
Well, it's not good, JD, and here's the other reason, and I think obviously the listeners understand that it's not just the fact that we're running in a pretty good year for Republicans, but we're running in states that the president didn't win 41% in 2012. I mean, keep in mind these races in Alaska and Montana and South Dakota and Arkansas, West Virginia. I mean, these are places that in a good year for the president, he's not very popular, let alone when he's actually not popular in a good year for us. So, yeah, you wouldn't want to campaign with the president, but that's why the Democrats are trumping up all of this stuff like this impeachment campaign. And, you know, they're actually using this stuff in order to make money. Perhaps maybe a smart move, but the reality is that the president's not popular. He's going to drag down the Democrats this year. And what we're trying to do, Congressman, is also highlight the fact that we've passed some bills here that are of substance and that people would want us to pass in Washington to get people back to work, and that there's a positive Republican agenda. It's not just, you know, how awful the president is, which he is pretty awful as far as leading this country, but it's also a Republican agenda that I think makes sense for the American people.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I want to go back to that graphic real quickly because it's very damning for the president and I think for Democrats as well. But considering you're trying to target Harry Reid, wouldn't a better target be the actual Obama administration, folks like Eric Holder, who's very unpopular, John Kerry, who's got a lot of egg on his face based on his foreign policy endeavors, the mid-level bureaucrats at the VA, Gina McCarthy over at the EP, actual folks who are in the Obama administration.
Go on and on, John.
Yeah, I know that these folks are in the administration, folks who can actually be fired, not voted out of office like Harry Reid can by the voters of Nevada.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. And I think what you're seeing is we're trying to walk and chew gum at the same time. Obviously, I think it's about Barack Obama. It's about Harry Reid. It's about the actual candidates that are on the ballots in these states. But it's also about the Republican agenda. I think it's all of that combined. I think you're right, John. There's really no better indicator in a lot of these states as far as a general poll question as far as whether the president's popularity is right side up or upside down. And what you're seeing is that even in states like Oregon and Minnesota, that the president's popularity is upside down, which then puts those races in play. I mean, it's a correlation that no one can deny, and I think you're right. But at the same time, I think we also want to show the American people that when it comes to this ridiculous rhetoric from the president, which is the Republican obstructionism, which is his favorite thing to say, that it's all bogus, and that the reality is that when you get 330 bills coming out of the Republican House, which some people would argue is too much, but in other words, 300 bills sitting, where are they sitting? They're sitting on Harry Reid's desk. So if the president was worried about obstruction, he should walk down the street and go to the Senate side chamber and walk into Harry Reid's office and say, what's going on? Get something going. So it's all just bogus stuff, and we're just trying to call the president and everyone else out on the carpet on it.
Reince, you mentioned a word a little while ago, the I word. You just glossed over it, impeachment. Now, it's interesting, in D.C., suddenly all the impeachment talk seems to be coming from the Democratic National Committee. What's going on? Are they trying to get Republicans to go into that briar patch?
No, I think that they know that I mean, the Republicans aren't in that briar patch, but they have figured out a way to raise some money on their side of the aisle. So they're talking about impeachment all the time. You turn on MSNBC and they're analyzing why would the Republicans be, and it's all, you know, Josh Earnest and the White House and the Democrats that are talking up this game. It's a way to raise money, and you know, they do a pretty good job out of it, and they put up with it, and they can sort of get their own joke, and they play along, and MSNBC joins in. Well,
let's follow that just a little bit, because we just had Louis Gohmert on, and he's pointing out the president apparently prepared to move unilaterally to declare amnesty for people coming into the country. Obviously, the president has overstepped his bounds in many areas, whether it's the proposed amnesty or Obamacare or you name it. So, Mr. Chairman, what should be done in terms of the legislative branch using its powers to stop the president from unlawful actions?
Well, look, I think Speaker Boehner's got the right idea in going to court. I think he's got standing. I think Article 1, 2, and 3 is pretty clear on the separation of powers doctrine. In fact, and I know you're on top of this very heavily, JD, but you know, the Supreme Court struck the president down 13 times over the last, 3 years, and I think 20 times over the course of his presidency, which includes his own appointees to the Supreme Court. They're going to pay a dear price for this overreach. Obviously, the American people are tired of it. I think for the first time in a long time in a lot of the polling, you're seeing people's frustration with government growth and federal overreach. I mean, this is a sophisticated topic, and it's reaching across the board out there in middle America. So I think, you know, elections have a lot to do with setting the course straight, and I think you're going to see that in the midterm. And obviously, I think we're going to hopefully ride this into being a party that just doesn't win a midterm, but is a party that figures out how to win a presidential election as well.
Ryan, just the last question for you, about a minute left to go. Yes or no answer here. You can do that or not. But will we hear more from people running for re-election about using the power of the purse, less about impeachment, less about this lawsuit, because the power of the purse seems the most immediate option available to Congress to stop the president?
Well, I think so. I mean, I think you have to, that's a case you have to make day in and day out. And when you're campaigning in a congressional district, when you're campaigning in a state every single day, you get to the substance and the meat of the problem, which is the fact that our government just spends too much dang money, doesn't obviously taxes too much, and obviously you can look at where we're heading for, you know, debt and unfunded mandates and everything else, and the case has to be made, and candidates have to be smart enough to articulate that on a daily basis.
And we'll have to leave it right there. Chairman Reince Priebus of the Republican National Committee, thanks very much for your time. Fighting continuing in the Middle East. Does Israel trust the U.S. to broker a ceasefire? We'll talk about that, but a Newsmax Now update when we come back.
Do you have questions about Medicare? Are you new to Medicare? Are you wondering about your choices? With over 30 years of Medicare experience, United Healthcare Medicare Solutions can help. Call now to learn more about plans available to you, including AARP Medicare plans, or to get this free Medicare Made Clear answer guide. It was created to help make the different parts of Medicare easier to understand. Medicare has two main parts, Parts A and B, to help cover a lot of your expenses, like hospital care and doctor visits. But they still won't cover all of your costs. United Healthcare has the information you need to help you be better prepared when making Medicare decisions. So call toll-free now or visit us online. Are you looking for something nice and easy, like a single plan that combines Medicare Parts A and B with medical and drug coverage? Well, a Medicare Advantage plan can give you doctor, hospital, and prescription drug coverage all in one plan. Maybe you'd like help paying for your prescriptions. Consider a Part D prescription drug plan. These plans can help reduce the cost of your prescription drugs. Call now to learn more about what United Healthcare offers, like AARP Medicare plans. We'll send you Medicare Made Clear free. One of the many ways United Healthcare can help guide you through your Medicare choices. If you or someone you love is new to Medicare, retiring, losing employers' retiree health benefits, or simply looking for answers to Medicare questions, like what's the difference between Parts A, B, C, and D, call toll-free now or visit us online and download your guide free at answerstomedicare.com/TV. It's full of useful information to help you understand your Medicare choices, and it's only from United Healthcare Medicare Solutions. Call right now or visit us online.
Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? Hi, I'm George Foreman. People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can provide patent referrals and submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
For your free inventors information, call 1-800-464-1685. That's 1-800-464-1685.
As we welcome you back to America's Forum, we also welcome back Morgan Thompson.
Thank you. Good to be back.
And you come on a day when there is plenty going on. John, you've been monitoring what's happening overseas and here at home. And
well, trying to anyway, JB, a lot going on.
Of course, the great thing is, again, we talk about the new technology. When stories develop, we're able to get them right to folks as soon as things happen.
And of course, we have a whole team of folks working behind the scenes to make sure those stories happen. And part of that is the reason why we're able to bring you these Newsmax Now updates. Well, there's more criticism today of the Obama administration's foreign policy, and this time National Security Advisor Susan Rice was heckled by a pro-Palestinian protester at a speech at the National Press Club. Rice had only just started to speak at a gathering of Jewish leaders when a protester decided to insert his own opinion.
Truth is, Israel is killing innocent people in Gaza. Stop the bombing, stop the killing. Stop the bombing, stop the killing, end the siege of Gaza.
Well, the truth is, innocent people are dying on both sides of this controversy and this crisis right now. The man continued to shout even as he was escorted from the room. Afterwards, Rice continued with her speech and defended both Israel and Secretary of State John Kerry for his efforts on a peace process. Meantime, the White House says this week they expect the European Union will impose new sanctions against Russia, but they don't know, or they don't have to, if Russia simply, they would not have to impart those sanctions if Russia simply cooperated.
There is a way out. Integrate Russia with the international economy, diversify away from fossil fuels, and play by the rules. That is still on offer. That is still a possibility. We would like nothing better than to resolve this crisis in Ukraine diplomatically, and that's now up to President Putin.
Well, President Obama and European leaders spoke earlier yesterday on the phone about what steps to take next to deal with the crisis in Ukraine and the ongoing violence in the eastern part of that country. Also, a decision has been made. A judge ruled against Los Angeles Clippers owner Donald Sterling. This allows that $2 billion sale to go through. It will be sold to ex-Microsoft executive CEO Steve Ballmer. The judge sided with Sterling's estranged wife in the case that began after the 80-year-old billionaire was banned by the NBA for making offensive remarks about minorities on a secretly recorded video. Sterling has vowed to fight the NBA until his death, and he's expected to continue to wage court battles to stop the sale. Interesting stuff there. The Donald Sterling saga continues. But also interesting to note there the flack that Susan Rice got, talking about the issue, trying to defend Israel, trying to defend John Kerry, but getting heckled by a pro-Palestinian supporter. This is something you usually hear from the far left, and this is not the first time a high-ranking member of the Obama administration has heard it from a normally loyal section of their political party.
Well, what happens in these situations? this is not like a grassroots thing. It's a stunt. Somebody basically infiltrates the group and disrupts the meeting. I can't tell you the number of times, especially in election years, when I'd be out campaigning, and especially in tight races, most of the folks on the left would pull that trick. It is kind of interesting to see these people give the left, now in charge of this administration, a dose of their own medicine. But apart from that political perception, you've got the real world problem of what continues in the Middle East and the seeming galvanizing of opinion worldwide against Israel. And it absolutely flummoxes me at this point to see that happening. And Morgan, just last week we saw these demonstrations, especially troubling what's going on in France.
Right. Well, and it seems like as Americans we can't do anything right because John Kerry's been criticized for not doing enough for Israel. Now, we're seeing this. It's kind of darned if you do either way.
Well, the Kerry situation, and it's interesting that Susan Rice went in to defend the secretary because, as we know, and we talked about it yesterday with Lanny Davis, Secretary Kerry is on very thin ice. It's as if he became the ceasefire crasher. The president of Egypt had a ceasefire ready to go, but suddenly here comes Kerry, and he puts together a plan that seemed to be designed by Hamas. The reaction in Israel, there's a picture, perhaps our esteemed staff can hunt it down, a freeze frame from the internet over the weekend with Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, and Secretary of State Kerry, and you could see temporarily the mask fell off and the real displeasure and irritation the Prime Minister has with our Secretary of State.
Well, yeah, and we've seen this with Kerry again, and we looked at the situation this week. We'll talk a little bit more about the pressure that continues to mount on Kerry as he tries to deal with this. But again, we wondered what was going to be the fallout from Kerry's comments that were caught on the Sunday talk shows, the hell of a pinpoint operation. Well, we learned a little bit about that yesterday, or with the Israeli Security Council unanimously rejecting his peace proposal. That body rarely agrees in a unanimous fashion. It's much like the U.S. Supreme Court in that way, and to have them roundly reject Kerry's proposal in that way, very embarrassing, not just for the Secretary of State, but also for the United States on a global level.
Well, you see this situation, and the point is well taken. Alan Dershowitz has come on this program and talked about just how polarized Israeli politics is. And it's a form and function of a parliamentary system of government that you build coalitions. But within this cabinet, you have such diverse opinion and, quite frankly, political outlooks that differ greatly, to put it mildly. So to have this note of unanimity from the Israeli cabinet weighing in against our Secretary of State, John, you're absolutely right. It portends a loss of face not only for Secretary Kerry personally, yet another blow collectively to American foreign policy.
And coming up in about an hour, we're going to try to take a look back at 10 years ago this week, what both the Secretary of State was doing then, as well as President Barack Obama. My, how things have changed, and some would say not for the better, some 10 years on in 2014.
Well, we touched on this. As the conflict in the Middle East continues, so does that public relations battle around the world. What is going on in terms of Israel and its message? We'll talk to Adam Thompson and get his take when we return. There is more straight ahead on this edition of America's Forum.
When you fall and cannot get up, an accident can turn into a tragedy. But with Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast.
This is Life Alert. Are you okay? I'm calling for help right now.
Life Alert saves a life from a catastrophe every 10 minutes.
Thanks to Life Alert, I can have peace of mind and continue my independence.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-896-9904. That's 1-800-896-9904. Call now at 1-800-896-9904 to get a free brochure. 1-800-896-9904.
Smile. No matter how well you provide for your family today, If you don't have life insurance, their future may be at risk. Think about what would happen if you were gone. Would they struggle to pay the bills and face an uncertain future? They don't have to. You can help guarantee those you love $200,000, $500,000, $750,000 or more with life insurance through AIG Direct. We'll help you get more for your money, up to 70% more. Just look, less than $14 a month buys a 40-year-old man a $250,000 term life policy. That's up to 3 times what you can get from other companies for the same price. No wonder millions of people rely on AIG companies. The call is free, the quote is free, and there's no obligation. Make the future more secure for those you love. Call now so you can sleep better at night.
For a free quote, call 1-800-558-5246 or visit AIGdirect.com.
Hi, my name is John Bachman. I'm 34 years old, and I'm an anchor at Newsmax TV, and there's no place else I'd rather be. There is so much gloom and doom out there right now. People want to talk about problems, but that's changing. The conversation is changing. People want to talk now about solutions, and that is what Newsmax offers. I mean, if there's somebody who is going to contribute something to the conversation, we're going to try to talk to them.
Back now on America's Forum. We mentioned it before the break and during our conversation with Morgan and John. The Middle East conflict rages on, Israel unleashing an intense barrage of air raids on targets designed to take out Hamas leaders and militants. All this while Israel continues losing the PR battle as waged in the media around the world, and including some interesting incidents here at home. I guess we could call it the battle within the real battle. Joining us now to discuss the matter further, from Newsmax New York, Adam Thompson, attorney and radio show host. Adam, we thank you very much for spending some time with us on America's Forum.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me back.
Adam, last night is being called one of the most intense since the conflict began. Hamas militants used tunnels again to gain entry into Israel. Those tunnels, Prime Minister Netanyahu says, they remain the major target right now.
That's the big issue now. I mean, the missiles being fired into the thousands now is just absurd to begin with. But the fact that they discovered over 30 different tunnels that come straight into Israel, that they're moving supplies, arms, soldiers to initiate attacks upon Israeli citizens is really the big problem here. And it seems it's being overlooked in all the discussions that you hear involving the United States and Kerry and the UN trying to negotiate or broker a deal. It seems that stopping these missiles from coming into Israel and putting an end to the use of the tunnels and destroying them always seems to get lost in the mix. And I don't know how that's even possible, because when you're being attacked, and that's what Israel is being attacked by a terrorist organization, how this isn't the main discussion on the table is beside me. I have no idea how this is being missed.
Well, it alludes to the fact that there is a PR battle being fought, and Israel, in the courtroom of world opinion, apparently is losing that battle. Why do you think that is?
I think that is, first and foremost, the U.S., who obviously should be Israel's biggest supporter and biggest ally, isn't stepping up to the plate. When you have Secretary of State Kerry coming forward and offering a ceasefire where the proposal is basically a blueprint that was drafted and designed by Hamas and looks like it was just turned over for him to regurgitate to the public, that's a big problem. The U.S. needs to come out, and when I say the U.S., we're talking Obama needs to make a very powerful statement, not something ambiguous, not something where he's beating around the bush, which has been pretty much the protocol so far, but he has to say Hamas is a terrorist organization. The UN recognizes it as such. America recognizes it as such. The European Union recognizes it as such. And being a terrorist organization, we're going to stand behind Israel, a free country that recognizes and respects all religions, all different types of gender and sexual orientations, which Hamas does not. We should be supporting a free country, and we're not taking that big step, making that big statement. And it's sending mixed signals around the world. I mean, you look at a graph on what's going on worldwide in France and other free democratic countries where thousands upon thousands are protesting against Israel, which is basically just a victim being attacked by a terrorist group. It's mind-boggling.
Well, one of the mind-boggling stories is that one that featured a hospital in Gaza that apparently was hit, and in there 9 children who were killed or injured. Israel says they have proof the attack was actually from a misfired rocket from Gaza. Why can Israel not get that message out?
Because they can't get a message out that the mainstream media doesn't want to get out. If the U.S. is trying to pressure Israel into accepting ceasefire terms that they don't want because their security will be put at risk, then they're going to keep putting pressure on Israel through worldwide opinion by not getting stories out there. So if all these media branches get together, the BBC, the mainstream media here in the United States, and they only print certain types of stories. I mean, you pick up the Huffington Press, I don't know what's going on over there, because every story is almost anti-Israel, as if Hamas is this holier-than-thou sainthood group that's doing nothing wrong. So, you know, the message has to be changed. The dialogue, the narrative has to change. The real story has to get out. I mean, the proof is there that this hospital was attacked by Hamas at a misfired missile. Why isn't that story out there? If it's factual, it should be told, but it's not being told. So what's the agenda behind that? The agenda can only be to pressure Israel to stop going forward, to remove Hamas, to protect the citizens, and to push a different agenda, which is basically giving Hamas what they want to get this whole thing resolved. And that can't happen. It just can't. You cannot let a terrorist organization win over a free country that's just trying to defend itself. The message sent by that is catastrophically wrong.
Adam, there is an exchange that we have played on our air in our program that is worth repeating. It features the Israeli ambassador to the United States in a heated exchange with Aaron Burnett of CNN. This comes to us courtesy of our friends at Newsbusters. We'll take another look at it, and I'd like to get your reaction to it. Here it comes.
Do you not think that it's relevant to report on CNN that the Secretary General of the United Nations yesterday warned against the use of UN schools and shelter for rocket missile depots of Hamas?
And Ambassador, it is relevant. And let me ask you this because of what you said.
But Aaron, I've been listening for 2 hours of reports on CNN. I have seen split screens, horrible pictures that any decent human being would be horrified by. I have not heard a single person say what I just said to you now. And I think that that does a disservice to your viewers.
So that was Ron Dermer, the Israeli ambassador to the United States, filing a little more than a diplomatic protest with Aaron Burnett's account of what was happening, and indeed with that CNN coverage. Adam, how did you see it?
I saw it exactly how he saw it. I loved it. I liked that he called out the CNN Aaron Burnett host on the fact that these media outlets are not covering the information correctly and providing the facts.
Do you not think that it's relevant?
Go ahead. That's okay, Adam. Go ahead.
I love the old quote, look, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. Listen, you can interpret facts any way you want, but facts are facts. Get your opinion based on truth at least. And he's bringing the truth out, and he's calling a network anchor on this. If you turn on these stations, you'll see for hours, relentlessly, one-sided coverage of what's going on in Gaza. And truth is not coming out. That's the big problem. And he called it like he saw it, and that's the bottom line.
And we'll have to leave it right there. Adam, we thank you for your insights and analysis very much from Newsmax New York. Now, let me ask you, how do you look at what is transpiring in the Middle East and the media reaction? Why don't you tweet us your comments at Newsmax TV, hashtag America's Forum. There's also newsmaxtv.com/comment, and don't forget Facebook.
Now everyone who uses catheters can get a better catheter with Liberator Medical's free catheter sample pack. These new catheters are better than ever, easier to use, more convenient, comfortable, virtually pain-free. Don't wait. Call now and get your free catheter sample pack. There's the all-new compact catheter for women, pre-lubricated, no drips, no mess, fits in your purse. The self-lubricated catheter, it lubricates itself in the package, comfortable, no mess. The closed system catheter, pre-lubricated with its own collection bag, proven to reduce UTIs. The discreet pocket catheter, curved to fit in your pocket to go anywhere. The polished eyelet catheter for micro-smooth comfort, reduces friction and pain. Call now. We'll also bill Medicare and your insurance for you. Call for your free catheter sample pack with free shipping. Call Liberator Medical.
Call 1-800-344-6777. That's 1-800-344-6777.
When you break down or need help fast, there's AAA and there's Auto Vantage. Let's see who has the advantage. AAA Plus covers you for up to a 100-mile radius. So for a 150-mile tow, it could cost you up to $200 out of pocket. With Auto Vantage, you're covered up to 150 miles at no additional charge. Advantage Auto Vantage. With Auto Vantage Locate Me technology, we'll find you with GPS by leveraging all the largest cellular carriers in America and provide you with professional roadside assistance. With AAA's Find Me service, they can find you with GPS, but only if you're calling with certain carriers. Or you can call, explain the intersection where you broke down, and hope you described your location correctly. Advantage, Auto Vantage. Auto Vantage provides lockout assistance of not just your car, but your home as well, which could cost you $50 or more each time. Plus, you'll get access to our certified mechanics hotline for repair advice and to tell you what real service costs should be. So if you're considering renewing or joining AAA, stop and take advantage of our 25 years of quality service in all 50 states. Just call or log on and see our head-to-head comparison against AAA and why it makes sense to switch today, like hundreds of other benefits and discounts we offer at more than 20,000 Auto Vantage certified service centers, hotels, and car rentals. Now get ready for the best part. For a family of 4 drivers, AAA Plus could cost you $139 or more per year. Auto Vantage, $69.99. We cover you and every member of your immediate family at no additional charge, whether they're home or away. That's just the right thing to do. Advantage, Auto Vantage. Call or log on now.
Call 1-800-735-4186. That's 1-800-735-4186, or log on to www.tryAutoVantage.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ben Carson. Obamacare isn't working for all Americans. Let's stop, take a deep breath, and recognize it's seriously flawed. Let's put patients first by focusing on free market solutions Americans can be proud of. America is blessed with a creative spirit that has conquered diseases, ended epidemics, and given millions of people the opportunity to live longer, healthier lives. We can once again have the greatest healthcare system on earth if Washington gets out of the way. If you want to hold Washington accountable and truly save American healthcare, join me and sign our petition today.
Call 1-800-425-6299 and sign the petition to save our healthcare. Call 1-800-425-6299 or visit our website and sign the petition today.
Let's work together and save American healthcare, sign the petition, and unleash the great American spirit again.
American Legacy PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Alongside Morgan Thompson, J.D. Hayworth back. And Morgan, good to have you. And we should take a moment right here to remind folks of how they can watch us. Maybe you were channel surfing and you just came across Newsmax TV. We're happy you did, but let's take a look at the different places where you can see us. DirecTV has us on channel 349, Dish Network on channel 223, and for the remarkable technophiles in our audience, you can get an app for your phone. Also patronize Google TV or Roku, and there's also our website, newsmaxtv.com. So, plenty of ways to watch us. We're glad, whatever way you're watching us, that you're here. Morgan, we continue to get comments in on the border crisis, and quite a few to go over right now.
Absolutely, and as we are America's Forum, we love to hear from you. Bruce says liberals want amnesty for the 11 to 20 million illegal aliens currently living in America. Let's say that happens. Then what? Do we grant amnesty to the next 20 million illegals that come looking for a better life? There are over 7 billion people on the planet, most of which would certainly have a better life if they moved to the U.S. I'll ask again, how many of these people should we let immigrate to our country?
Dapper Don has this to say: I could care less about the actual numbers as long as these people contribute to our society instead of leeching off it. In other words, no welfare, no food stamps, no free medical care, nothing. Heck, if we can afford to do that in the first place, then let's spend that money on our veterans.
I think we can all agree with Dapper Don. And SCOTUS, or Scott U.S., says, I applaud the governor for having the courage to defend his state, as Obama has not. I only wish he would take it a step further and escort the invaders back across the border from where they came.
And here's one from Mike M., 1969. The only funding that needs to happen is to get U.S. troops down to the border to fully secure it.
And Alas says, I hate to say it, but unless we the people get out and start making our voices heard and protesting this madness, we have no one to blame but ourselves.
Cajun Tex writes this: plain law says if you're in this country illegally, you're subject to deportation and you're unable to work lawfully in our country. I can't find anything wrong with the law as written. Can anyone else? The problem is the president's failure to enforce that law. And I thought we had one more, but that still gives us a fair sampling of what's going on. And people just want to see existing laws enforced.
Well, the thing is, you know, it makes you wonder how they handle these issues in other countries. I mean, obviously America is the land of the free and everyone wants to come here, but do you see these sort of issues in Canada, and how do they deal with them?
Well, or a neighbor to the south, Mexico, with far more stringent rules for coming into that nation. So it's something worth noting. And Morgan, we thank you for you helping out with our social commentary and what people had to write here and assessing what you see at the border. As we look back at our history, many different events helped to shape this country. One in particular happened in the war that pitted brother against brother, our Civil War. It's the subject of this American moment.
Abraham Lincoln began the war between the states with a single stated purpose: to preserve the Union. So it surprised everyone when in July of 1862, President Lincoln announced his intentions to issue an Emancipation Proclamation to free the Southern slaves. Lincoln was urged to delay his proclamation until the Union Army could boast a battlefield victory. That opportunity came at the Battle of Antietam, when Union forces drove Lee's army out of Maryland. 5 days later, on September 22, 1862, President Lincoln issued the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation, stating slaves in those areas still in rebellion within 100 days will be freed. This action made slavery the focus of the war and ultimately caused France and England to withdraw their support of the South. The following January, Lincoln issued the actual Emancipation Proclamation, stating that all persons held as slaves within the rebel states are, and henceforth shall be, free. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.
Technology gives you security. Technology gives you control. And now, technology gives you home security and control in a new and revolutionary way. Introducing Plug and Protect from LiveWatch Security, an easy-to-use wireless security system customized just for your home, controlled from any smartphone, tablet, or computer, and monitored by professionals 24/7. Go to livewatch.com to get Plug and Protect interactive security delivered to your door. Arm or disarm your system from anywhere. Lock or unlock your doors. Turn your lights off or on. Even oversee your home with live video. With Plug and Protect, your security system is configured, tested, and then shipped directly to your home. No wires, no installers, just peel and place. Go to LiveWatch.com because with Plug and Protect, we customize your security to fit your home. The Plug and Protect secret is technology. With technology, you buy airline tickets without a travel agent. You trade stocks without a stockbroker. Now, with Plug and Protect, you can protect your home without an installer, pushy salesman, or a long contract.
Every day, the kids got out of school before I left work. I worried whether they were home okay. But then I found Plug and Protect from LiveWatch. And now I see when they open the front door, so I know they're home safe. LiveWatch helps me stay in touch and in control.
Founded by a paramedic in Kansas, serving tens of thousands of homes in all 50 states, and trusted by policemen and firemen throughout the country, LiveWatch is the new choice for home security. No door-to-door salespeople, no messy installers, no long-term contracts, just Plug and Protect. Now you too can enjoy the home security and control you want for your family. Try Plug and Protect in your home for a full 90 days. Included is our hassle-free guarantee. Go to LiveWatch.com. Plug and Protect is not available in stores, so go to LiveWatch.com right now. That's LiveWatch.com.
Backed by the resources of Newsmax.com. This is Newsmax TV, Hour 2 of America's Forum now. I'm J.D. Hayworth.
And I'm John Bachman. J.D., a lot to get to. We're going to continue to take a look at everything happening around the world, but right now with this Newsmax update, we'll start with a big domestic issue here at home. Let's get started. And we're talking about the VA, of course. Former real estate broker and current chairman of the House Veterans Affairs Committee, Jeff Miller, is drawing on his past work experience today as he tries to sell a new bipartisan bill to reform the scandal-plagued Department of Veterans Affairs to his GOP colleagues. The Miller-Sanders plan is going to cost about $17 billion. Miller, the Republican chairman of the House committee, and Senator Sanders, the chairman of the Senate committee, announced the compromise yesterday. It includes $10 billion in emergency spending so that vets can get access to health care outside the VA. The bill also contains $5 billion to add more doctors and nurses and money to lease new facilities across the country. Both chairmen say the bill makes certain that Washington will address the immediate crisis facing our vets.
Funding for veterans' needs must be considered a cost of war and appropriated as emergency spending. Planes and tanks and guns are a cost of war. So is taking care of the men and women who use those weapons and who fight our battles.
Sanders went on to say that taking care of veterans' needs is the driving mechanism of this bill. Some critics say the bill still costs too much and does not do enough to streamline the firing process for VA bureaucrats. VA committee chairman and Republican Jeff Miller says the bill stretches beyond partisan lines.
Senator Sanders and I differ about certain things, but one thing that we do agree about is that the veterans of this country deserve the best quality health care that they can get in a timely fashion, and that has not been the case as of late.
Congress does head out of town at the end of this week, but lawmakers from both sides of the aisle believe that they will pass this before everyone leaves. The Senate also is expected to confirm former Procter & Gamble CEO Robert McDonald as a new VA secretary later this week. And federal contractors now building the first U.S. nuclear reactor inside this country in some 20 years, but construction is proving to be a little problematic. Issues stemming from the design and quality of prefabricated materials is leading to construction delays and safety concerns. Also on a global level, the nuclear industry has faced increased scrutiny following the failure of the Fukushima nuclear plant in Japan after an earthquake and tsunami in that country back in 2011. Despite that, utility companies in Georgia and South Carolina are looking to complete the building of these reactors and get them online sometime in 2017. Also now today, the U.S. has accused Russia of violating a 1987 missile treaty. President Ronald Reagan and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev agreed to this arms treaty some years ago. The ban prohibited the U.S. and Russia from using ground-launched ballistic or cruise missiles capable of flying up to 3,400 miles. The decision helped put an end to the Cold War, and it has been regarded as a cornerstone of American-Russian relations after the Cold War. But yesterday, President Obama raised these allegations of misconduct in a letter to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Also, later today, we do expect the State Department to release new details following this treaty violation in its annual compliance report on the issue of arms control treaties. And over in Israel, fighting continues to intensify, and in Gaza, as Israeli Defense Forces begin to concentrate on key Hamas targets. Israeli warplanes leveled the home of a top Hamas leader last night. The IDF also struck the offices of Hamas-run TV and radio stations. In the meantime, tens of thousands of Palestinians have been displaced by the fighting in Gaza. The death toll has now surpassed 1,000. Most of the victims on both sides of the conflict are civilians. And earlier this morning, shelling from Israeli forces demolished Gaza's only power plant. This comes as the IDF continues to destroy Hamas's infrastructure. Israel actually supplies much of the power and electricity to Palestinian civilians, but fighting has destroyed many of the power lines that run into California. Now back here in the States, in California, a 2,600-acre wildfire continues to spread along the western edge of Yosemite National Park. The fire began on Saturday, and as of today, firefighters say the blaze is only 5% contained. Officials say they are expecting thunderstorms today, which could either help or hurt things depending on how much lightning is involved in those storms. However, officials also say the El Portal file has claimed 13 homes and some 1,200 people have been evacuated from that area. JD?
John, as we turn our attention worldwide, terrorism continues running rampant. Fighting this war on terror seems to be a perpetual struggle. But how are terror groups being financed? Here to shed some light on the funding of terrorism, the CEO of Tactical Rabbit, Everett Stern. You may recall Mr. Stern, the whistleblower in the HSBC money laundering scandal. He uncovered billions of dollars of illegal money laundering transactions, which led to an SEC investigation and subsequently a fine of almost $2 billion. Everett, we thank you very much for your time. Thanks so much for Skyping in now to America's Forum.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me on. Thank you.
So, Everett, can you describe how terrorist groups like ISIS are being financed?
Yeah, sure. So what's happening is really through a money laundering mechanism. Funds are being wired to fronts, and then those fronts are then opening up bank accounts at banks like HSBC, and then the money's being wired and they're being financed. But really, where the source of the funds is coming from governments. I think in the ISIS situation, it's really coming from Russia and also Iran. But what's not being understood is that in order to stop terrorism, is that you have to stop them at the bank. You have to cut off their money supply.
Now, Everett, is there any gray area here for some of these folks? And I've covered a few of these stories where, say, a doctor here in this country thinks he's supporting medical supplies for an Islamic country, but winds up donating that money, then gets used for a terror organization. Is there any gray area, or should folks here in this country or others that donate to some of these organizations, should they know how their money is being used?
Yeah, they should absolutely know how their money is being used. And, if it's going to an OFAC-sanctioned country, it's illegal, it's treason. And what people seem, where the disconnect seems to be, is that money laundering, terrorist financing, it kills people. Innocent people will die as a result of it. And that's what, it's not just a white-collared crime. I mean, banks that are financing terrorism have the blood of American soldiers on their hands. So I think when an individual is going to put money into an organization, or to buy medical supplies or anything of that matter, that needs to be taken into account. That money could go towards building an IED to blow up one of our soldiers.
Now, Everett, in 2013, HSBC admitted that it had allowed big Mexican and Colombian drug cartels to launder at least $880 million. The bank also admitted to using various schemes to move hundreds of millions of dollars to nations subject to trade sanctions. Are there any other banks that were involved in, and what can we learn from that scandal that helps us now try to uncover what's going on with these terror groups in the Middle East and elsewhere?
Sure. I mean, Standard Chartered Bank, Bank of America has had numerous run-ins with the drug cartels. But, really all the big banks are involved in this in some fashion. And I think, what the problem is that the Department of Justice just is not sending people to jail and is not prosecuting anybody. So it's kind of like, you know, giving these banks a get out of jail free card. Let me give you an example. I mean, if I murder somebody, right, and I go to court, I can't just pay the judge, you know, $500,000 just for a not guilty plea. I mean, and that's what the banks are doing, which is not American, and that's not the way it should happen. And that's how terrorists are getting financed. And unfortunately, our government is allowing it to happen because we're afraid of a financial crisis. But if I can also just add on the terrorist financing, for instance, with Tactical Rabbit, my company, we just did an investigation into SJP, which is the Students for Justice of Palestine, which is a student organization based in the United States. They're spreading rapidly. They're being financed by our tax dollars. And we believe, if through our intelligence operation, that all indications point that they are financing Hamas. Now, you know, so this is a student-run organization, you know, based in our universities, that's sending money to a terrorist organization. And I think with this Gaza situation, what people don't understand is that, look, you have the Palestinians, and then there's a separate group, and that's Hamas. Hamas is separate from the Palestinians, and Hamas is a terrorist organization, and they need to be wiped off the map. And again, I know that's an extreme view, but, you know, I think a lot of the news keeps jumbling that Hamas is you know, combined with the Palestinian people, and they're not.
Well, Everett, you mentioned that student-run organization, but since, you know, you say there's no gray area here, I wanted to get you to name a couple other organizations that you think are funneling money to these terrorists, but maybe trying to operate here in this country under the flag of being a legitimate aid organization. What are some red flags you've seen of groups that people should avoid?
Yeah, well, part of the Students for Justice in Palestine organization, you know, my intelligence officers found that money was going to Canon Fair Trade on the West Coast, also the Westpac Foundation, and what these organizations are saying is that they're giving money to the Palestinians, and they're helping Gaza, but really where that money is going, it's going to Hamas, but they don't, for some reason, these organizations don't separate the two. And again, it's not understood that Hamas is a terrorist organization, and you know, they're an enemy of the United States and the state of Israel. But most importantly, they're an enemy of the United States, and also having to do with them being financed. It's unfortunate that our government, and again, I'm very pro-government, I'm very pro-America, but unfortunately, our aid that's going to Hamas is being used to build tunnels and to buy rockets, you know, from Hezbollah, and it's a real issue here. I mean, I think the country needs to evaluate, you know, where we're sending our money, and is that going to be financing people that we're going to be fighting much later?
Everett, you basically concentrate on what's going on in the shadows, but you mentioned something here that I like to pick up on, and that is the notion how much spending is done in wide open circumstances. In other words, as a budget item, as appropriated money, how much over the years has the Obama administration sent to the Palestinian Authority or directly to Hamas?
Talking billions of dollars. I mean, and it's not only the aid; it's what they're allowing to fund to flow indirectly, and that's the problem. I mean, we don't. So let me give you an example. If I can just break down how a money laundering situation works, because a lot of people don't know what money laundering is. So if you have let's just say you have a terrorist, right, and he's making all this money from drug dealing or from whatever illicit activities he's doing. So he decides to open up a pizza shop or a car dealership, and what he does is that the car dealership and the pizza shop don't actually make any money. They maybe sell a few pizzas here and there, but what what he does is he takes that money that he's making illegally and he puts it into the pizza shop and shows that's the revenue, and then he can go and file taxes. So he's turning illegitimate money into legal money. Now, the problem with this is that it makes it very difficult to identify the source of the funds, and that's how the funds get into the banking system. A drug dealer can't just walk into a bank and say, here's $100,000 for my drug dealing activities. So they have to do it in via a pizza shop, some other mechanism. So what's happening now is that globally we're losing track of our ability to actually monitor this and stop it. And really, the only place where to stop it is at the bank, and that's what for some reason here the Obama administration is allowing the banks to continue to do this.
Everett Stern, we'll have to stop it right there. We appreciate what you have to say. Next time we have you back, we're going to find out all about the name of your firm, Tactical Rabbit, but that's in the future. We thank you for shedding light on this very serious topic of money laundering and terrorists. America's Forum will continue following this time out.
This will hit Americans harder than anything since the Great Depression. Over the past 26 years, our research firm has guided over 1 million investors. We predicted 5 major events over the past decade. In 2002, we advised our clients to buy gold-related investments when gold traded under $300 an ounce. In 2006, we begged investors to get out of the housing market before it plunged. We were among the first to predict the recession of 2007. We predicted the stock market crash of 2008. Finally, we turned bullish on stocks in 2009 and drove the Dow from 6,440 to over 16,000, a gain of over 10,000 points. Our first 5 predictions have come true. Now we're issuing critical warning number 6. Most people won't like what we have to say. They'll find it hard to believe until they see all the facts we present them online at criticalwarning6.com. Go to criticalwarning6.com now. criticalwarning6.com.
When demand is high, so is opportunity. There is only so much silver in the world, and over half of all silver produced each year is used in industries that make products like cell phones, cars, and computers. This industrial demand is one reason silver has performed so well, and why some analysts are predicting a future surge in silver demand. Since silver is the lowest priced precious metal, shouldn't you see how silver can help diversify your portfolio? Goldline has been helping people acquire precious metals like gold and silver for over 50 years. Getting started is easy. Just call the number on your screen to receive our free investor kit. Shipping is free. You pay the same price using cash or credit card, and qualifying orders are eligible for Goldline's Price Guarantee Program. Call now to get started, because greater silver demand creates greater opportunities.
Staring contest! You still got it. I know.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Back now at America's Forum, and rhetorically, it's time to go back to the border because our southern border, well, the situation there continues to unravel as the flood of illegals coming into our nation shows no signs of letting up. This as Tennessee Governor Bill Haslam says the Obama administration quietly dumped over 700 illegal immigrant children into his state of Tennessee without any warning. And my old colleague, Texas Congressman Steve Stockman, said during a visit to the border, he concluded with the comment, quote, "President Obama is begging to be impeached." So, Steve Stockman may have said it, but when you hear some talk from the Democratic side of the aisle, could it be our commander-in-chief is actually mounting a campaign for his own impeachment? Is that intentional? Joining me now to discuss the topic, Democratic political strategist Joe Listingi. Joe, welcome back to America's Forum. Joe, obviously we have Steve Stockman and some others frustrated with the move the president has made, but it's been interesting to see the counter moves of Democrats in terms of fundraising, etc.
Sure.
Is the administration wanting impeachment or wanting to use this issue?
I don't think so. No, obviously, I don't think anyone wants impeachment. But I will say this: I mean, these are bombs that are being lobbed from the other side. We've had talks of lawsuits, talks of impeachment, and the truth is impeachment is done by the House. And when the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, the DCCC, wants to fundraise off of this, they can, because when they elect more Democrats, these threats of impeachment aren't going to be, they're not going to be tallied around so much. I mean, the Republicans are wading into dangerous waters. They've been calling for impeachment, I think, since 2009.
Joe Listingi, we appreciate your perspective. We should point out now that we've been joined by Daniel Scarpinato, the National Press Secretary for the NRCC. So, Daniel, all this impeachment talk, just really a fundraising tool for the Democrats?
Yeah, I think it's a fundraising scam, I would say, by the Democrats. Look, what I would say is that I think that the president is begging for voters to send a clear message in November. I mean, I think Republicans are going to win seats in the House and pick up the Senate, because I think, you know, we've had a summer of disengagement, essentially, by the president, where he's more interested in traveling the country and going to diners and playing pool and drinking beer than dealing with the issues. And I think Americans are rightfully extremely frustrated. And it's going to be a real disaster for the Democrats in November. I think they're in denial of this. I don't think they realize it. But, you know, people are going to send a clear message. One question we ask in every poll we do in every district in the country, including in ones where President Obama won, is do you want a Republican who will be a check and a balance on the president, or a Democrat who will help pass the president's agenda? And by far, in every district, again, including ones where he won, people want a check and balance on him. They don't trust this president anymore. And I think that's really what this is all about.
Well, one of the things we try to do here, gentlemen, is to pull the curtain back. And fundraising, we understand, is a necessity, and there has to be an urgent reason for people to give their money. Now, yep. Joe, you went through, and I appreciate you laying out kind of a schematic there. Sure. But the fact is, let me offer a compliment to the DCCC in terms of the fact when they sent out all the emails, they've gotten about $2 million in response. But I want to show you what the incoming Republican House Majority Whip Steve Scalise had to say this weekend. I believe he was interviewed on Fox News Sunday. Congressman Scalise says, and I quote, "You know, this might be the first White House in history that's trying to start the narrative of impeaching their own president." Now, let's face it, there are frustrations on the Republican side. A member or two may mention the I word, but as a political reality, Joe, you don't believe that's going to take place, do you?
Well, you know, I got to be honest with you, I don't know. I mean, no one knew really, I mean, and you may be able to speak to this from your experience in the House, but when they impeached Clinton in the 90s, that was a bit of a surprise. It was also a folly on their part. There are plenty of polls out there that say that the Republican base wants impeachment. There are plenty of fundraising activities going on the Republican side to raise money off of impeachment. Both sides are using this to whatever advantages they have. And if you recall, the lawsuit a few weeks ago was also a big fundraiser for the Republicans, and members of Congress sent out emails regarding that. I mean, this is just a lot of political talk. I actually don't know if impeachment's going to happen. I think if the Republicans do it, it will be very costly to them, and they know it. And that's all. I mean, and that's why it has not happened yet.
Well, Joe, you mentioned what transpired in years past. I can tell you what happened in my mind. There was a situation where, sadly, the President of the United States, in my eyes, committed perjury, and that was one of the problems that led to what happened to President Clinton. Let's get back to the here and now. Daniel, taking a look at a new poll, and it's a poll of voters who are likely to vote in the midterms, asking Americans, would you want Obama to campaign for you? And you can see a resounding no. 57% of the respondents, only 41% say yes. Now, we should note this is not a poll of members of Congress right now, but the mood is indicative of what's transpiring around the country. Daniel, as you look at what the NRCC is monitoring, just how bad is it getting for the president and the Democrats?
I don't know if it can get worse. I mean, Congressman, you remember what it was like in 2008 when or 2006, I guess, when President Bush was very unpopular, and members of Congress who were in tough races had to deal with that. And this is very similar to that, if not worse, in many cases. And the Democrats can't get away from the president fast enough. We have a standing offer that if the Democrats want President Obama to go to any of the competitive districts in the country and campaign with their candidates, we will get the plane ticket, buy the confetti and balloons and set it up. But so far they haven't taken us up on the offer, and it's very clear why. And we're talking about congressional districts, by the way, where President Obama got 55% of the vote, 56% of the vote in some cases. And you just saw the poll that came out that showed that Governor Mitt Romney would win the presidential election today. So I think all the talk after Obama won in 2012 about how the Republican Party should be buried and put out of its misery was all nonsense. That clearly the environment has shifted, and it's not just because it's a midterm, as the media likes to say. It's because the president has squandered his support among the American people by a really out of control agenda and total disengagement.
Well,
since he's
Daniel,
been
to be
reelected.
fair, you're citing a CNN poll, and we should also point out that they looked ahead to 2016, pitting Mitt Romney against Hillary Clinton, and Mrs. Clinton was ahead and winning that matchup going away. Speaking of Mrs. Clinton and CNN, she was on the other night. She raised some eyebrows about a comment she made concerning former President George W. Bush. It was not a disparaging comment. Take a listen. I'd like to get your reactions after we listen to this.
Whether you agree or disagree with a lot of what else he did, and I disagree with a lot of it, I am proud to be an American. When I go to sub-Saharan Africa and people say, I want to thank President Bush and the United States for, helping us fight HIV/AIDS.
So there is a specific word of praise for Bush 43. Joe, is this something where the Clinton folks have already micro-targeted? They say there's some independent women out there, or there's some soft Republican women. A word of kindness for a Republican chief executive can reap votes in the future for Mrs. Clinton?
Well, I think she, much like I, am actually quite proud of that movement. And we wonder today, and I think what she's setting up here politically is what happened to the compassion in his party? I mean, this was what he did in sub-Saharan Africa on AIDS was huge. I mean, it was great for that region. It was great for America abroad. It really helped us look like leaders when we needed it the most.
All right, Joe, fair enough. We only have about a minute left, and the charge is being made, Daniel, that Republicans lack compassion, that George W. Bush at least was a compassionate conservative. You get the last word.
Yeah, well, that's not what I remember Hillary Clinton and President Obama saying in 2008 when they were on the campaign trail and demonized the president every opportunity they had. I mean, the rhetoric was so hot. We are a party of compassion, and frankly, the president's agenda has failed at helping people. People are suffering more than ever, and Republicans have an agenda of jobs and economic opportunity and getting people out of minimum wage jobs and into good-paying jobs. That's compassion, and that's what we're about.
And we'll have to leave it right there. Daniel, we thank you for your perspective, and Joe, as always, we thank you for your perspective. It always sparks debate and healthy disagreement, and we'll have you both back again soon. So that's the take of our good friends from Washington. What are your comments? Why don't you tweet them to me at Newsmax TV, hashtag America's Forum.
I've fallen. Please help me.
When you fall and cannot get up, an accident can turn into a tragedy. But with Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast.
This is Life Alert. Are you okay? I'm calling for help right now.
Life Alert saves a life from a catastrophe every 10 minutes.
Thanks to Life Alert, I can have peace of mind and continue my independence.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-896-9904. That's 1-800-896-9904. Call now at 1-800-896-9904 to get a free brochure. 1-800-896-9904.
How long have you had your car insurance?
How long have I had my car insurance? I don't know, 8, 10 years?
Well, I couldn't tell you, but things were a lot less expensive back then.
If you're 50 or over, you should take a new look at your auto insurance. You may be overpaying.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Old policy, old rates.
And thanks to your experience behind the wheel, you might save $404 by switching to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford. Plus, you'll get benefits that reward your driving record, like our promise that you won't be dropped.
Wait, you won't drop me? Seriously?
That's right, you won't be dropped. And if you know anyone who's been dropped by their insurance company, you know that's a hassle you don't need.
Especially these days.
Plus, you'll get Recover Care, which helps pay for everyday needs like house cleaning, lawn care, and pet services if you're injured in an accident.
So my auto insurance is going to help pay the house cleaning if I'm injured?
Did you say lawn care?
And if I can't walk my dog, they'll help me pay someone to do it for me.
Call the number on your screen to switch to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford and be rewarded for your experience behind the wheel.
Recover Care, auto insurance that helps take care of me. Now I've seen it all.
You won't drop me, you take care of me as well as my car, and you offer savings to switch. It's unbelievable.
If you're 50 or over, call now to request your free quote.
I'm gonna call.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
Call the Hartford at the number on your screen to request your free quote. 1-888-529-1797. We'll even send you this free calculator. Call 1-888-529-1797 now. Why wait?
Hello, I'm John Bachman. Welcome back to America's Forum right here on Newsmax TV alongside Morgan Thompson.
Yes.
Morgan, we're going to talk about what's going on in Israel and Gaza, the Middle East, but also John Kerry's role and what might be left of that role in the future. Some criticism coming down from some places the Secretary of State not used to hearing it from.
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens because, you know, a lot of people are calling for him to step down and they're saying it's really hurting our relationship. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
All right, we'll take a closer look at that issue, but let's start with the Newsmax Now update. And we'll start in Israel and Gaza today. Hamas rejecting a call from Palestinian leadership in the West Bank for a 24-hour halt to the bloodshed in Gaza. A report by the official Palestinian news agency said Palestinian leadership was offering a 24-hour truce, which could be extended up to 72 hours. They said the idea had support from Hamas, but a Hamas spokesman said the report was not true, and Israel had no immediate comment. Of course, this week marks the 10th anniversary of a political convention up in Boston that is more memorable, perhaps, for a speech by a then state senator than the then Democratic nominee. Of course, we all remember this.
We are one people, all of us pledging allegiance to the Stars and Stripes, all of us defending the United States of America.
Well, we can understand if you were excited by that back in 2004 on that July night. We saw then Senator-elect Barack Obama rise to the level of a bona fide political superstar. Some would say for better, others for worse. But it's hard to find anything from that speech 10 years ago that matches up to the reality of today. Also in Boston 10 years ago, we heard this from the Democratic presidential nominee, John Kerry.
I'm John Kerry, and I'm reporting for duty. We have it in our power to change the world, but only if we're true to our ideals, and that starts by telling the truth to the American people. As president, That is my first pledge to you tonight. As president, I will restore trust and credibility to the White House.
Trust and credibility, not to the White House, maybe not even to the State Department. Of course, this was 10 years ago exactly. And as we all know, Kerry never really got a chance to do that, at least not as president. And many pundits and editorial pages, including the left-leaning Washington Post, are now saying that Kerry's defeat may have actually been a good thing, at least from a foreign policy standpoint. Yesterday, the Washington Post had a column titled, "John Kerry's Big Blunder in Seeking an Israel-Gaza Ceasefire." The paper takes Kerry to task for putting, quote, so much emphasis on achieving a quick halt to the bloodshed that he has solidified the role of Hamas, the intractable, unpopular Islamist group that leads Gaza, along with the two hardline Islamist nations that are its key supporters, Qatar and Turkey. Also, the paper writes, quote, he has undercut not only simply the Israelis, but the Egyptians and the Fatah movement that runs the Palestinian Authority, all of which want to see an end to Hamas rule in Gaza. So, of course, Morgan, whatever the case here, Kerry certainly did not help matters with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu telling the world to expect a prolonged military action now in Gaza. And as many of you might not remember, this week, we talked about this a little earlier, Israel's Security Cabinet unanimously rejected Kerry's proposal for that 7-day ceasefire. Things have gotten so bad that the Obama administration, including National Security Advisor Susan Rice, have had to publicly defend Kerry and his efforts, but others, including Texas Senator Ted Cruz, have called for Kerry to step down. Kerry might be the next Obama administration official facing this type of serious scrutiny. We also mentioned this earlier with the RNC chairman, Reince Priebus. You got Kerry, you got Eric Holder, you got Gina McCarthy at the EPA, you got all those mid-level bureaucrats at the VA. You wonder now if this and Kerry's failures in the Mideast becomes a foreign policy issue that's big enough and hurts enough folks in places like Florida and elsewhere that it becomes a real campaign issue.
Well, and if it does get to that point, then it certainly will. I mean, at a certain point, you know, I'm sure this wasn't the outcome he was looking for. You know, I don't think that supporting Hamas was what Kerry was intending to do.
No,
whether
of course
it's
not.
resulted in that is a different story altogether. But, you know, at a certain point, do we need to be focusing on cleaning house, or do we need to be focusing on, you know, solving these issues? By the you know, if we start getting distracted with let's impeach Obama, let's impeach Kerry, and let's do all this stuff, all we're going to do is distract ourselves from the real issues and get sidetracked.
Fair enough, but the question is, you know, this is foreign policy. This is not, you know, a pass-fail grade situation. Well, actually, it is a pass-fail, but you do not get an A for effort in terms of diplomacy here. Nobody can criticize Kerry for not trying in the Middle East. He's been over there a number of times. We've heard folks like Lanny Davis. We've heard folks like Alan Dershowitz praising Kerry for the effort that he's put in here. But again, the results are what matter in this situation. And with Kerry as a Secretary of State now for a couple years, the results are not any better. And also interesting to note here, how will this play? How will Hillary Clinton continue to deal with these foreign policy questions as she continues to promote her book and ramps up her potential presidential bid? Will she really defend Kerry? Will she try to separate herself from the current Secretary of State, saying she would do things differently than he has attempted? A lot of questions out there.
If she's smart, she'll say she'll do things differently, absolutely. But I do think it's nice that she's trying to kind of, you know, marry both sides of the fence. And I think that's nice that she's being rather bipartisan.
And so that works for you as a voter. A lot of folks might call that kind of political spin duplicitous.
Well, you know, again, she's just at the start of this. So, you know, I think right now she's trying to gain as much of a popular footing as she can. And, you know, I wanted to mention also, when we go back to Obama 10 years ago, we saw that clip. I think what made him so relatable and so electable back then is exactly what's hurting him now. You know, people thought, oh, he's so folksy, I relate to him, he's the kind of guy I could go out and have a beer with. Well, now with what's going on in the world, nobody wants a president they want to go have a beer with. They want a strong leader. So I think it's interesting to look back, because it was making me think about, you know, how we all felt back then and how excited we were.
I'm sure there's a lot of nostalgia for what we heard from President then Senator-elect Obama back in 2004, not the reality of today. And you mentioned folks don't want a president they can have a beer with necessarily. They want a guy who's going to solve these problems. The president about to head on to a very long summer vacation, as is Congress, with a lot of issues still yet to be resolved. More to come here on America's Forum. John Bachman, Morgan Thompson will be back, as well as J.D. Hayworth for more here on the show right after this.
Are you suffering from lower back pain?
Do you wake up with nagging aches and stiffness? Now you can stop suffering and relieve your pain with Chirobac,
the drug-free in-home treatment for back pain.
All it takes is just 10 minutes of soothing treatment from the comfort of your own bed, couch, or floor.
It's like having your own personal chiropractor right in your home.
I use my hands in the office to provide passive motion to the spine of somebody who's experiencing pain. And that passive motion is replicated by the Chirobac.
It's like having this personal chiropractor do the motion that I'm used to when I go to a chiropractor.
If you can lie down to rest, you can get rid of back pain with Chirobac. It's that easy.
All it takes is 10 minutes a day.
It's like magic. It opens the whole spine up and you're free again.
The secret is Chirobac's proprietary technology.
A fusion of oscillation therapy and continuous passive motion.
The unique motion gently releases the pressure between the vertebrae, allowing your spine to open up and decompress.
It's amazing how much tension it can release in so short a time. 10 minutes? That's amazing to me.
Chirobac is clinically proven to provide long-lasting relief.
In fact, Chirobac was proven 200% more effective than inversion therapy. It even proved more effective in relieving lower back pain than exercise.
Call now and try Chirobac risk-free for not 30 days, but 60 days with our triple guarantee. If Chirobac does not relieve your back pain, return it and we'll refund the purchase price, refund the shipping charge, and even pay the return postage.
So give Chirobac a try today. Chirobac, relief at last.
Visit trychiro.com right now or call 1-800-334-9816 for your risk-free trial. That's 1-800-334-9816. Call now.
We, the people of the United States,
in order to form a more perfect union,
establish justice,
ensure domestic tranquility,
provide for the common defense,
promote the general welfare,
and secure the blessings of liberty
to ourselves and our posterity.
Do ordain and establish this Constitution
for the United States of America.
J.D. Hayworth back with you now on America's Forum, and Senator Jeff Sessions says Congress must act immediately to thwart President Obama's proposed use of executive power to address the illegal immigration crisis.
And alter the constitutional framework in a way that the founders would never have accepted. Plain law says if you're in this country illegally, you're subject to deportation and you are unable to work lawfully in our country.
The Alabama Republican making those comments during an interview with Steve Malzberg on the Steve Malzberg Show here on Newsmax TV. And Jeff Sessions is not alone in that fear. Joining me now, Derek Morgan of the Heritage Foundation, Vice President of the Institute for Economic Freedom and Opportunity. Derek, we thank you for joining us today from Washington, D.C.
Thank you for having me.
So, Derek, do you agree with Senator Sessions?
I absolutely do. The fact that the president is contemplating now a new executive order granting amnesty for 5 million or perhaps even more illegal immigrants is extremely troubling. It was bad enough when he did it with the so-called dreamers, but now he's going to do it with millions more.
Derek, when you take a look at this, what is the president hoping to gain by granting these rights, giving this amnesty to illegal immigrants?
Well, his stated purpose is, in his view, to, quote, grant relief, unquote, to those who are here illegally from deportation. Essentially, that means that he's decided there's a law that Congress has passed that's on the books that previous president has signed that he's decided he doesn't like. So he doesn't want to enforce that law. A more cynical view might be that this would help him in the election in November among those who are more sympathetic to illegal immigrants.
You mentioned electioneering, Derek. Donald Trump offered his perspective on why the president may be doing this. Let's listen to the Donald, and I'd like you to react to his comment after we listen to it. Here it is.
I mean, nobody can be that incompetent to allow what's happening to happen. So it must be a concerted effort. There's no other way that you can think of it. And they come into the system, and over a period of many years, they become Democrats, and they vote for the Democrats. But this is a concerted effort because nobody can be as incompetent as it's showing.
So the Donald says it's not incompetence. It's a well-designed plan. Your take on that?
Well, if he is right that it was a well-planned, or it was a plan, I think it's actually backfired tremendously. While some might have thought that the storyline that there were a lot of unaccompanied children coming across the border, that would draw a lot of sympathy, it's actually had the opposite effect. People see now that when you promise amnesty and even give amnesty, it encourages more and more illegal immigrants to come. And so now you're seeing there was a poll out just recently that showed that the vast majority of the American people want to see these, all of these illegal immigrants, most of whom are adults, deported immediately.
And speaking of that polling, I'll be talking about that a little bit later in my commentary here, but now I'm really more interested in your perspective, especially as we take a look at what, and you've got to get a kick out of the language involved. The LA Times puts it this way: White House officials are looking at a large-scale expansion of immigration rights that could come down in the next few weeks through executive action. First of all, expansion of immigration rights, that's just a fancy way to say amnesty. But if this does indeed happen, what will be the result? What will be the impact?
Well, the impact will be more illegal immigrants will come. They will see that illegal activity is, instead of being prosecuted, it's actually welcome, in that you can jump to the front of the line. You know, part of this that is most troubling to me is all of those legal immigrants. And America admits 1 million legal immigrants every year. That the people who are waiting in line, following the rules, they're being really discriminated against by those who have decided they're going to take the law into their own hands and break the law. To me, that's one of the more troubling aspects of all of this.
Derek, you have made a great point. What about those people who play by the rules, who observe the rule of law and have tried to come to this country lawfully? Well, we obviously have seen in the past, when we failed to deal with illegal immigration, it brings more illegal immigrants. To the here and now of the, quote, children being let into the country, we're hearing from different school districts around the country. They expect, just for lack of a better term, to be overrun. What is this going to mean financially to so many school districts around the country?
It's going to mean a lot of costs, JD. In fact, one of the nation's best welfare experts is here at Heritage, Robert Rector. He looked at the costs of granting amnesty to currently present illegal immigrants. He added up all of the costs, so the cost to school districts and so forth, and added up all the benefits, because illegal immigrants actually, believe it or not, do pay a number of taxes. But he added all of that up, and he found out that over their lifetime, we'd be looking at more than $5 trillion of costs on the American taxpayer at the federal, state, and local level.
Derek, as we sit here and try to absorb those astronomical costs and the trillions of dollars, there's another curious story that's emerging in the education file. Reports that illegal adults are posing as teenagers to enroll in public high schools. What have you been hearing about that?
You know, I would not be surprised. The fact is that the president's current proposal, the Deferred Action on Childhood Arrivals, actually incentivizes a lot of fraud. You know, the fact that people can come in, they can say, I came here before I was 16, and I came here through no fault of my own, and I qualify for this amnesty. So it's not surprising to me that there would be fraud. In fact, if you look back at the 1986 amnesty, a lot of the best scholarly work on that has indicated that perhaps upward of 1/4 of all of the applicants for amnesty then were fraudulent.
So we are taking a look at fraud. We only have about a minute left, but Heritage seems to stand alone amidst the Washington establishment saying to Capitol Hill and the president, don't do this. What are you hearing from congressional offices? Are the phone lines, in fact, melting down from people calling?
Absolutely, they are, and I think that's been happening, you know, for this whole week, and I expect it'll probably continue. You know, I was on C-SPAN the other day, and every caller was upset that our laws are not being enforced. You know, we're a generous people. We don't want to certainly see anyone coming across the border, particularly children. We don't want to see them mistreated and so forth. But the fact is, we have immigration laws, and we all need to follow them. It's the only fair way to be.
And I would offer as a footnote, Derek, when C-SPAN has callers, they have party lines for Republicans, Democrats, and Independents. This is a widespread concern. Derek Morgan, Vice President for the Institute for Economic Freedom and Opportunity at the Heritage Foundation, we thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you for having me on.
So we heard from Derek. What's your take on what should happen? We'd love to have your comments. Why don't you tweet them to me at Newsmax TV, hashtag America's Forum.
As women, we always talk about how we should look or what's the best way to lose weight. But for me, it finally became all about how I feel. No tricks, just me. I looked in the mirror and I saw what I didn't want to see, the truth. I was 50 pounds overweight. It was a rough day. That's when I decided I had to lose weight. So I chose the only simple option for me, Nutrisystem.
Now you can lose weight even faster with the Fast 5 kit from Nutrisystem. Lose 5 pounds your first week or your money back, guaranteed.
I lost 50 pounds on Nutrisystem.
Order your 28-day My Way plan and we'll rush you the Fast 5 kit free. You'll get a week of fantastic energizing shakes, 1 week of delicious Craving Crusher shakes, and a free week of 21 delicious meals, and it's all free.
So why do I keep telling you about Nutrisystem? Because it works, and I know it'll work for you.
Call 877-271-DIET and lose your first 5 pounds free.
Are you confused by all the expanding hoses on the market? Don't be fooled by imitations. Hi, I'm Michael Berardi. I'm the inventor of the X-Hose, the original blue expanding hose. In fact, I've been awarded 4 U.S. patents for my invention. My X-Hose is the only patented expanding hose on the market, and it bears the trusted DAP product's name. Also available is my incredible DAP X-Hose Pro, with solid brass fittings, a wider 3/4 inch diameter, and constructed from even stronger materials. Works like my original X-Hose. Just turn the water on, and my X-Hose Pro automatically expands and expands and expands as you effortlessly guide it to where you need to go. And when you're finished, my X-Hose Pro will automatically follow you back and contract for easy storage. My DAP X-Hose Pro is great for homeowners and professionals.
I own a mobile detailing company, and this hose saves me a lot of time and energy on my job. It never kinks, it is super lightweight, and hardly takes up any space in my trailer.
What I enjoyed when I watched her using the X-Hose Pro is that the hose actually looks like it's helping her use it.
This 50-foot 3/4 inch rubber hose weighs over 11 pounds. My 50-foot 3/4 inch X-Hose Pro weighs only about 2 pounds. My DAP X-Hose Pro is actually made from a tough, multi-layered expandable inner hose and a folded outer covering made from durable, super strong webbing. Because of its patented design, my X-Hose Pro will never kink. Get my amazing DAP X-Hose Pro for only $29.95, but call right now and get a second X-Hose Pro free. Just pay processing and handling. Durable, solid brass fittings, super strong materials, strong enough to pull an SUV, 3/4 inch diameter for a powerful spray, and incredibly light. So call now. I promise you'll love it.
Call 1-800-330-8854. Call now and get a second X-Hose Pro for free. Just pay separate processing and handling. So call 1-800-330-8854. 1-800-330-8854 and order your X-Hose Pro today.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names. They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
Call right now to get your free Senior Care Compass ebook. Find out about the 5 best-kept secrets on financing senior care and assisted living.
To find out more, call 800-263-4151. That's 800-263-4151.
With Morgan Thompson and John Bogman, J.D. Hayworth welcoming you back to America's Forum. It's your turn. You're weighing in via social media on the topic of Israel and Hamas.
That's right. And 51% says Netanyahu said it best. Israel's protecting their children with missiles. Hamas is protecting their missiles with children.
And Blanche writing in something similar here. Hamas is killing their own children by using them as human shields. Anyone who supports Hamas is the terrorists themselves.
Wizardus says it this way: the people of Gaza had a golden opportunity to build a vibrant economy in a stable democratic society. Instead, they elected Hamas to squander that opportunity in their unbelievably stupid quest to destroy Israel. Interesting thoughts from you at home, and now I've got a couple of thoughts to share with you right now. You and I remember a lot of the things Ronald Reagan said. For example, trust but verify, and Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall, and how about win one for the Gipper? Those phrases often come to mind, but here's a Reagan saying you probably haven't heard, because it's insider shop talk for candidates and office holders. Quoth the 40th President of the United States: when you find an 80% issue, go up and put your arm around it. That's a remark Republicans would do well to remember, and especially in light of the chaos on our southern border. Come to think of it, Democrats, independents, libertarians, vegetarians also ought to heed its inherent wisdom. What has me remembering Reagan's remark is a new poll commissioned by The Economist, scarcely a conservative publication. Here's one of the key questions. What should the U.S. government do with the unaccompanied children it has in custody now who have crossed the border illegally? 77% of Americans want those children sent home. Now, you correct me if I'm wrong, but by my math, that's only 3 points shy of the Reagan embrace remark. That's close enough for government work. What you may find even more surprising is that 66% of Hispanics want those children returned. Now, while the poll offers distinctions on the conditions surrounding their return, the key word is returned. Those results should serve as a wake-up call to Washington, and they dispel what I've long called the myth of the monolith, the notion that if you have a Hispanic surname, you're instantly for amnesty. All of this brings to mind something else Ronald Reagan said that we should remember. A nation that does not secure its borders is not a nation. And that's the way I see it. Now, for the way you can see your way clear to get airline ticket prices down to the lowest, enjoy this Max to Life. Oh, I beg your pardon. We actually have a minute remaining. So I hurried through that commentary.
Okay.
But the point is made. The poll numbers are not what the media suggests it is.
I don't find them surprising at all. I mean, when you think about it, we only have so much resources to go around. We only have so many jobs, so much health care. You know, the more people we're fighting for this, you know, the people that fought so hard to get here, they don't want to share that with other illegal aliens, more illegal aliens.
I'm going to take a closer look at that poll. I haven't seen this, JD, but the conditions surrounding the question is an interesting take there. And I know we're short on time. We'll have more discussion on this coming up here later on the week.
I believe a follow-up is in order,
Certainly.
And it is something we will do. But again, as we found politically, the sentiment overriding tends to be the action. But we'll take a look at that. Now, as promised, you need to buy an airline ticket. You want to get the best deal. Enjoy this advice in this feature called Max to Life.
You're watching Max to Life.
There's so many travel sites, all promising the best rates. But how can you find the best price for booking an airline ticket this summer?
Well, believe it or not, sometimes procrastination pays. Not in life, of course, but when it comes to buying airline tickets. You get the best deals a lot of times about 6 or 8 weeks before you travel. Don't want to wait until the last minute, but you don't want to book too far in advance. Also, if you jump online in the morning, sometimes you'll see deals that you didn't see the night before. That's because some airlines let people hold tickets until midnight, and then if those people don't buy the tickets, the best deals are back online the next morning. So check back, be patient.
Don't forget to shop around different sites and look for coupon codes. And lastly, the more flexible you can be with your dates, the better rate you can expect to get. I'm Karina Brez.
Get more lifestyle news at Newsmax.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ben Carson. Obamacare isn't working for all Americans. Let's stop, take a deep breath, and recognize it's seriously flawed. Let's put patients first by focusing on free market solutions Americans can be proud of. America is blessed with a creative spirit that has conquered diseases, ended epidemics, and given millions of people the opportunity to live longer, healthier lives. We can once again have the greatest healthcare system on earth if Washington gets out of the way. If you want to hold Washington accountable and truly save American healthcare, join me and sign our petition today.
Call 1-800-425-6299 and sign the petition to save our healthcare. Call 1-800-425-6299 or visit our website and sign the petition today.
Let's work together and save American healthcare, sign the petition, and unleash the great American spirit again.
American Legacy PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
If you want an adjustable bed, shop by phone and save on a new Craftmatic, the best-selling adjustable brand ever. Call for prices and free information. There's no obligation. Our everyday low prices are guaranteed. Compare us to the leading memory foam brand and save hundreds, even $1,000 or more. Discover our 30-day in-home trial. We won't be undersold. There's no hassle, no pressure, no pain. No salesman will come to your home. Convenient delivery, installation, and in-home service in the continental U.S. Watch TV, read, eat, rest, and relax at the touch of a button. Enjoy personal heat and soothing massage at a price you can afford. So why consider anything else? Discover Craftmatic for less, up to 50% less. Call for prices and free information and save hundreds, even $1,000 or more on luxurious memory foam. There's no obligation. Call now.
Call 1-800-686-3106. That's 1-800-686-3106. Call 1-800-686-3106. Call now.
With Morgan Thompson and John Bogman, J.D. Hayworth welcoming you back for Hour 3 of America's Forum for this Tuesday.
Good to be back with everybody. And of course, yesterday, the big news out of Capitol Hill, there was some bipartisan movement on that immigration bill. I'm sorry, the Veterans Affairs bill.
Boy, it really would be news if there was
yeah, wishful thinking maybe, as that crisis gets worse and worse.
Well, obviously, this Veterans Affairs bill, the VA healthcare bill, something very important and ostensibly the way Washington should work, although there's a hefty price tag involved.
That's true. So we'll take a closer look at that coming up, guys. First, let's get to a Newsmax Now update. And we'll start in the Middle East. Israel continues to build up its military campaign against Hamas, saying at least 100 Palestinians were killed today in airstrikes and tank shellings. 2 tank shells hit Gaza's power plant, forcing it to shut down, and other sites nearby in Gaza City were also heavily pounded by Israeli artillery. As the shelling continued, a senior PLO official asked for a 24-hour humanitarian ceasefire. He said he spoke in the name of Hamas, but was contradicted a short time later by a spokesman of the Islamic militant group saying that wasn't true. Now, the IDF also hit key strategic and symbolic targets inside Gaza, like the home of Hamas's leader, as well as a Hamas-controlled radio and television station. Also, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel is now telling the world that his nation and the war in Gaza will be, quote, prolonged. Israel says it's defending their people against constant attacks from Gaza, hitting Hamas rocket launchers, weapon storage sites, and military tunnels. Now, in the Ukraine, pro-Russian separatists have blocked a railroad, preventing residents from leaving a city there. That, according to a Ukrainian spokesman. Earlier in Kiev, a dozen children gathered to unveil paintings, pictures, and drawings and letters that they had made for Ukrainian soldiers. Also today in California, firefighters may be making some headway in the battle against that massive blaze in and around Yosemite National Park. The huge fire is burning through miles of brush and trees, but officials say it's only about 5% contained. It's progress. There is progress, but it's still been a lot of work that needs to be done. The problem is weather that may make things worse.
Thunderstorms are a double-edged sword. They can help us with rain. We got some thunderstorms last weekend that dumped a lot of rain. Certainly the moisture would be good. However, lightning strikes and igniting more fires is certainly a concern.
At least 100 homes were evacuated, and firefighters are cutting down trees to keep the fire from spreading. They're also using, as you saw there, helicopters to fight the flames. Tourists, though, continue to come to Yosemite despite the blaze. And we have an update today on that American doctor and aid worker who have both contracted the Ebola virus. The latest reports say Dr. Kent Brantley, who works for the charity organization Samaritan's Purse, a group we talk to occasionally here on Newsmax TV, is fighting for his life and is in grave condition. He's suffering fever, headache, and abdominal pain, all symptoms that come with Ebola. Dr. Brantley is in isolation in the outskirts of Liberia's capital, Monrovia. Yesterday, he wrote an email that said, quote, "I'm praying fervently that God will help me survive this disease. The odds are not good." Also, a second American aid worker, Nancy Wrightball, has also tested positive for Ebola.
A lot of people praying for those two around the world, John. As we mentioned earlier, we're keeping our eyes on this Veterans Affairs reform bill that likely will be sent to the president's desk before Congress is scheduled to leave town Friday for their 5-week summer break. Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont and Jeff Miller, the congressman from Florida, able to merge the two versions, one from the Senate, one from the House, into one bill over the weekend. This compromise allowing veterans to seek treatment from private care providers in certain circumstances. Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi, a senior member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, voted in favor of the bipartisan bill and hopes it is approved quickly.
Well, I think most members will vote for it. We're not totally delighted with every aspect of it, particularly the way it's paid for. But, you know, when you get Bernie Sanders elected on the socialist ticket in Vermont, and Jeff Miller, a conservative Republican chairman in the House, to come up with an agreement, there's going to be some compromise and some give and take.
Roger Wicker there on C-SPAN, joining us now. Someone who will be affected by this bill. She's Army veteran Amber Barno, who's a spokesperson for Concerned Veterans for America. Amber, as always, it is good to have you with us. Thanks for Skyping in from Washington, D.C. today.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be back.
So, Amber, what do you think about this compromise? Roger Wicker says, well, hey, look, you've got people far apart. They got it together. Is this the way Washington is supposed to work?
Well, I do think that it's good news coming out of Washington for this VA Reform Conference report. It is nice to see members of Congress working together. Compromise was involved, so there's definitely some good sides of this bill mixed in with some things that we definitely don't think that was needed in this bill. But for the majority of it, it is going to help veterans, so we're happy that they could come to a compromise, and hopefully it will move across the president's desk here shortly.
And that's what everybody's hoping. But Amber, I wanted to ask you about that provision which allows veterans to see private physicians in certain circumstances. This is something that you have said would help in this situation. Are folks happy about this, and do you think it will have a different effect, maybe giving the VA Medical Center a little bit more motivation to take better care of vets?
I do. The two positive things out of the bill is the accountability part, and that veterans are going to be able to seek privatized health care if they have an appointment time that's outside of the 30-day window or a 40-day mileage radius from a VA facility. So that part of it is great, that veterans will have that option when the VA is lacking on performance with their appointment times or locations for facilities. Veterans will be able to seek healthcare elsewhere at the dime of the VA because the VA wasn't able to perform in that aspect. But the part I don't like about that is the stipulation involved that it only applies to veterans who are enrolled in the healthcare system by August 1st of 2014. So there's this stipulation that says if you've had to deal with the problematic part of the VA, then okay, you can now have this good part of the VA bill that's going to be passed. But if maybe you had other choices and you didn't have to use the VA system, you'd heard about how terrible it was, and you were like, I don't want to allow myself to that sort of treatment, those people aren't going to be eligible for this privatized healthcare option.
You know, Amber, the bill would also allow the VA secretary to immediately fire senior executives. Do you think this is a good stopgap to stem the corruption we've seen, or do you think it could also lead to favoritism, political favoritism, that sort of thing?
No, I think that aspect of the bill was absolutely mandatory. The VA doesn't have a funding problem, it has a culture problem. And part of that is not being able to fire those infected leaders, those corrupt managers who are making very poor decisions that veterans are suffering the consequences of. So that's like stop number one that needed to be in this piece of legislation. They need to make sure that the Secretary of the VA has the authority to make the decision to fire those managers who are really making the culture within the VA bad for everyone.
Amber, as we hear about this compromise and that the secretary can fire these managers, what about specific caseworkers or mid-level folks? As part of the compromise, protecting the, quote, workers' rights, the union rules that some of these people live under, was that mixed into this compromise?
The main thing that this piece of legislation is going after is the senior executive services employees, the SES employees, where those are the ones where it is literally impossible to get fired. It's almost about a 2-year process where you're still getting paid, you're still getting basically all of your employee benefits, and oftentimes you are writing your own self-evaluation reports. And so it takes 2 negative evaluation reports within a year to even get that ball rolling to get fired. So that's why it was so crucial that these SES employees were actually rolled in on this accountability part of the bill. It's easier for the lower level employees that don't have as much tenure or basically the seniority of those SES employees.
You know, one of the things about the bill that I really liked was the expanded scholarship program, that it's now going to include the spouses of people that, you know, died in the line of duty, and also that now all vets will qualify for in-state tuition. What do you think of these measures?
I think that it's a good thing. I don't think it was actually something that there needed to be time focused to. This was to fix the VA healthcare problem in terms of these long wait times and veterans dying at the hands of decisions at the VA and their ineptness and inability to manage the system. So I think that that was something that was thrown in. I think that had a little bit more of playing politics is involved. They were just throwing some stuff under this piece of legislation. I mean, it's fine, but once again, it's more money. It didn't have anything to do with the healthcare part of the problem, which was the dire situation here.
Now, Amber, is that something that you feel like members of the House GOP conference should hold their feet on? We've talked about the concerns about the price tag involved in this and some of the other measures that tend to get added onto these types of bills. We want to see this pass, of course. We want to see the VA get the help that it needs. But on those issues, you just raised some concerns about, should some people say, wait, we don't need that stuff, we should really just focus on the task at hand?
Well, I think it goes back to what we talked about in the beginning. There's going to have to be compromise involved, you know, to maybe like squash the big problem here. We are going to have to deal with some of these smaller issues being thrown in, which I think is acceptable. But it just comes back to that funding is not the issue. The CBO has said that it's possibly going to cost around $17 billion over this 10-year time period. 10 of that is going to the private healthcare option for veterans. About 5 of it is going to hire more staff and doctors and different medical staff. And then a little over $1 billion is going to go to new leasing, new VA facilities. But what this comes down to is, once again, this is not a funding issue. The VA funding has increased almost 60% since 2009. They have the funding, they have the money available to them. They don't have the managers properly allocating it to the right positions. And part of that is because of the bureaucracy and the red tape that doesn't allow them to shuffle where it's needed versus where it's going. So I think this is giving the VA a free pass, essentially, with them not managing their finances very well. And it's just saying, here's some money, fix it real quick, but you're not having to address your inability to manage your money very well.
In fact, Amber, as I understand the legislation, there's $2 billion that is authorized to go to, quote, miscellaneous spending, which may be in one sense something very desirable in the abstract, like opening up scholarship opportunities. But miscellaneous, in one sense, a lot of people are going to say, wait a minute, this is a bridge too far, and yet the compromise situation. On balance, Amber, are you satisfied with this? And would you advise members of Congress and the U.S. Senate to vote for it?
I think that I agree with the majority of what the bill stands for and what it's going to do for veterans. It's not perfect. I don't think that we will ever have a perfect one that actually gets to this far, where it has as much support as it does. So right now, yes, I support it. I think it needs to pass. It's going to help veterans. And I think it will, in the big picture, it's going to do great things for the VA because of that accountability piece that's in there with the top level managers and because of the private healthcare options.
Well, we can't really understate or overstate, I guess I should say, the importance of this private workaround. And a lot of folks might be lost, Amber, on the idea that this is a socialist, Bernie Sanders, a self-identifying socialist, advocating for a private sector workaround when it comes to the VA here. And if there's enough money in this plan, maybe more doctors will also offer up some volunteer hours to help contribute to the backlog.
And it also covers veterans that are more than 40 miles away from a VA hospital. So that's important as well, because some of these people don't have access.
Yeah, and you know, Jade, go ahead, Amber, sorry.
No, I was going to say exactly to your point as far as government-run healthcare and the environment and culture that goes along with it. We need these doctors to be working past 3 p.m.
Right.
You know, we need them to be doing their jobs and actually not being part of that bureaucracy problem. And once they've been there for a few years and they understand how the system works, they're actually still doing their job as doctors and basically treating the VA more as private healthcare and actually getting in there and doing the work and not basically just getting used to that bureaucracy and getting comfortable in it and being like, oh, I'm clocking out at 3 o'clock instead of staying and ensuring I get to see more patients, more veterans, and helping the situation instead of being part of the problem.
Exactly.
Well, Amber Barno, you always do a great job taking a look at these different proposals. We thank you both for your service in the United States Army and your time with us today. We look forward to visiting with you again real soon.
Thanks for having me.
All right, stay with us. When we come back, midterm races around the country. Where are candidates lining up? Larry Sabato from the UVA with his crystal ball next.
Could you afford to have your wealth cut in half? Pat Boone here. It seems the news gets scarier and scarier, doesn't it? Now, respected economists and even billionaires warn we're on the eve of a massive wealth destruction. Stock charts show amazing similarities to the months before the 1929 crash. Could they be right? Could Americans face an economic crisis worse than 2008? Closing banks and slicing portfolio values in half? Yes, they could. Now, how would you survive if your wealth crumbled overnight? Nobody knows when wealth destruction may hit, but one thing I do know for sure, it's wise to have a gold and silver foundation before a crisis. Some timeless wealth insurance. Why don't you call the folks at Swiss America for their timeless truth about money kit? Better to be a month early than 1 second late. Call now.
Are you prepared for the coming geopolitical storm that will radically alter the military, political, and economic landscape as we know it? Events unfolding within the next 6 months will have consequences for all Americans and inescapable worldwide economic impact. Langley Intelligence Group Network. LIGNET is a globally recognized intelligence resource with a senior advisory board consisting of former CIA analysts, national security officers, and presidential advisors. LIGNET's seasoned intelligence and security experts have now issued a global forecast that is must-reading for those who need to be in the know. This in-depth analysis arms individuals, investors, corporations, and governments with the tools to position themselves for success in this rapidly changing environment. Sign up now and access the LIGNET Global Forecast for just $1. Receive 30 days of full access to LIGNET's penetrating global analysis. Join LIGNET today. Go to www.lignet.com/global.
Hey, Hard, what's this? That's my resignation. You're resigning. Why? You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately. That's why I'm ready to quit. Oh, I forgot. I'll do better. Please don't quit on me.
Don't let your heart quit on you. Get your uncontrolled high blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late.
And we welcome you back to America's Forum. I'm J.D. Hayworth. As we made mention of earlier in this program, we're really just a few months away from the midterm Senate races, and the drama builds. In fact, it's almost like one of those old radio soap operas. Will Republicans reclaim a Senate majority? And is this president a liability for Democratic candidates?
Cue the organ music.
That's right. We need the organ music out. John Bogman's looking to play that organ right now. He's still here, and the man who has control, if not of the musical notes, but the numbers and the themes to basically every campaign in the country, Larry Sabato, PhD, from Charlottesville, Virginia, UVA's Center for Politics. Larry, thank you for joining us today.
Delighted to be with you. I can't sing a note, but I do math pretty well.
Well, that's very good, and we appreciate the fact that you can look to what was once a part of Virginia. I believe that changed in the war between the states. West Virginia specifically, where Democrat Natalie Tennant is running to try and succeed Democrat Jay Rockefeller. She has an interesting new ad out about coal and electricity. We're going to listen to that, and then, Larry, we'd like your comments on it.
I'll make sure President Obama gets the message.
So there it is. Talk about asserting one's independence, running on the same ticket as the president. Is this an effective way to distance Natalie Tennant from Barack Obama?
It's about all she can do. You also see the very same thing in next door Kentucky, where coal is also important, and the Democratic candidate, Allison Lundergan Grimes, is doing the very same thing. Now, why are they doing it? Because the president and his Democratic allies in Congress are now associated with, quote, anti-coal policies. Well, that's a killer. It's a killer in Southwest Virginia. It's a killer in West Virginia. It's a killer in Kentucky and any place where coal is being mined on a large scale.
Well, we see the situation in West Virginia. Let's go to another resource-rich state, and that's Alaska. Democrat Mark Begich is considered one of the most vulnerable incumbents in the country. The GOP primary there is August 19th, a three-way between Dan Sullivan, Lieutenant Governor Meade Treadwell, and Tea Party candidate Joe Miller. Who might emerge from that to face Begich?
Well, I think the likeliest nominee is Dan Sullivan. I'll tell you, though, this three-way contest has hurt the Republicans, as sometimes these intra-party contests do. Plus, Alaska has that late primary, the August primary. So I would have to say, as vulnerable as Begich is, he's been running one of the best Senate campaigns in America. And the Republicans are going to have to reunite quickly after their primary to really have a chance of taking him down.
Well, Larry, no one would accuse Democrat Mark Pryor of running one of the best campaigns in Arkansas right now. Republican nominee Tom Cotton, a very strong contender there. Pryor swept the state back in 2008 with 80% support, but it's not looking like he's going to have a very easy time this time around, especially with Obama's unpopularity.
That's correct. It's no better than a toss-up. Some people think it leans Republican. I don't know anybody outside the Democratic camp that thinks it leans Pryor. So that is one of the Republican Party's best pickup attempts against an incumbent. Remember, they've got 3 seats that they're going to pick up that are open, that are currently Democratic seats: West Virginia, South Dakota, and Montana. But if I had to look for an incumbent to lose, I would first look to Mark Pryor.
Well, let's go back out west, Larry, to Colorado. An interesting matchup there. Congressman Cory Gardner against Democrat Mark Udall. The polling I've seen right now, surprisingly to me, has Udall still ahead. Now, what's happened out there? Has Gardner, does he have too much of a conservative image in Colorado? What do you think's going to transpire in that campaign?
Udall is only slightly ahead. That's a highly competitive contest, and Cory Gardner was probably the best candidate the Republicans could have gotten for this race. Look, Colorado has changed. Obviously, it's gone from blue to purple. I think the whole election in November centers around the percentage of Hispanics who turn out to vote. If it's a relatively high percentage, then Democratic Governor Hickenlooper will win, and Senator Udall, another Democrat, will win. If the Hispanic percentage is lower in a midterm election, then Cory Gardner has a good chance to win, and Bob Beaupre, the Republican gubernatorial candidate, has a medium chance to win.
Well, Larry, one follow-up question on Colorado before we get to Georgia, and that is Colorado and Udall has really tried to make women's health an issue in this campaign, running a lot of ads already on women's health. How is that playing out in Colorado and elsewhere on the national stage?
You know, if Republicans could somehow drop social issues, and I realize that would be unpopular with many Republicans, but if they could drop social issues, they'd win a lot more elections. It's the social issues that tends to turn off young people and women, contraceptives, abortion, same-sex marriage.
Of course. And it's causing a problem, and Gardner's going to have to address that. One last question real quick with just about 2 minutes to go. My home state of Georgia, how do you see the race between David Perdue, the outsider, and Michelle Nunn, the self-proclaimed outsider, shaking out?
Well, my site, the Crystal Ball, is betting on Perdue. We don't see it as a landslide, but we think he'll win. Georgia is still fundamentally Republican, though, again, that state is changing.
And one other question, Larry, before we let you go. You touched on what was going on in Kentucky. You said that Allison Lundergan Grimes is doing a pretty good job with the coal question, as we talked about West Virginia. Can she beat the Senate Republican leader, Mitch McConnell?
Well, she could. You know, his personal popularity ratings are awful. But again, we're betting on McConnell, and we have consistently, even when he was well behind her. And we bet on him because Kentucky is a conservative state where President Obama's approval ratings are in the low to mid-30s. How do you get a Democrat elected to the Senate when the leader of the party is that unpopular?
Larry Sabato, as always, we can tell you're a guy in demand. We heard the cue from your computer back there, and we know that you're a busy guy there at UVA. We thank you, as always, for your insights and analysis. Thanks for Skyping in from Charlottesville, and we look forward to our next visit.
I enjoyed it. Thanks very much.
So we heard from Larry, though Mitch McConnell's popularity may be down, the fact that he's a leader and he has some dough, he still thinks McConnell can prevail.
And one of the savviest politicians in Washington, no question about that. Nobody's questioning his ability here in this race, and Mitch McConnell, former candidate. We did hear, though, that Bill Clinton should be headed back to Kentucky very soon. But again, JD, no mention of President Obama going to Kentucky, Georgia, Colorado, and elsewhere. Well, and if he goes, like he went to Colorado, he doesn't meet with the actual candidate.
No, I think if he goes to any of those states, he'll probably just end up playing golf, or as we see in this video right here, shooting pool, as that happened on his last trip to Colorado. Time to talk about a new feature that's coming along here, and I get a kick out of this because I can just imagine if we were being billed for this time for legal advice, to have such a legal luminary as Alan Dershowitz offer advice to us. Well, we get it here for free. That's right, a new feature here on Newsmax TV. Alan Dershowitz, the noted criminal defense attorney, also the former Harvard Law School professor, with a segment entitled You and the Law.
Have you ever been stopped by a policeman for a traffic violation? Of course you have. Millions of Americans are regularly stopped by the police for traffic violations and other reasons. Now here's the question. Is it legal for you to surreptitiously hit the record button on your smartphone and tape the conversation with the police? Well, it all depends on which state you were stopped. If you were in about a dozen states like Massachusetts, California, or Florida, don't go near your record button. In Massachusetts, the top court has ruled that recording a policeman is a crime unless you tell the cop you're doing it. Many states have privacy laws that make secret recording of anyone illegal. And in some states, you're free to record the policemen in the exercise of their duty, but not to record other ordinary citizens. Illinois passed a draconian law saying that if you tape a police officer on the job, you could face as much as 15 years in prison. An appellate court overturned the law, and the Supreme Court upheld that specific ruling, but it failed to rule on the issue as a whole. The Massachusetts case was particularly egregious because the cops were spouting racist talk to an African-American driver who recorded the conversation to protect himself. Instead of the cop being fired, the victim of the racist talk was prosecuted. Bad decision, but it's still the law in that state. In 38 states like New York and Virginia, it's legal to turn on the record button, but don't do it. In general, I advise you not to, because if the policeman catches you, he might figure out some way of getting even. And don't forget that in almost all states, it's legal for the police to audio and videotape you. Many police, even on traffic stops, have microphones attached to their body, and are recording your comments. In other places, the police have video on the hood of their car and they're recording your movements. So don't forget that fact and remember your state laws and act accordingly. I'm Alan Dershowitz for Newsmax TV.
I'm at St. Jude because I had a cancer inside of me. They diagnosed me with a brain tumor. You have to be strong and don't give up. Attitude is everything. You have to fight.
Imagine your doctor tells you your child has cancer with only months to live. Where would you go? What would you do? Who would you turn to? Fortunately, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is fighting every day to save children's lives. And with a gift of just $19 a month, you can join the fight.
This is my kid that they're giving back to me. I am so grateful.
At St. Jude, no family ever receives a bill. In fact, no family pays St. Jude for anything. That's why your gift of $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, is so important.
When I thought that I might lose my son, they gave me hope. You are not only saving a child's life, you're breathing life back into that family.
If I hadn't have come here, I wouldn't have my son.
St. Jude's life-saving research and treatment is shared freely with hospitals around the world.
St. Jude gives you hope and happiness. They're helping us live. Maybe in the future, kids won't have to go through this. We'll find a cure and it'll all be over.
Please, call and become a St. Jude Partner in Hope right now.
What if your elderly parent is one of the 1 in 3 seniors that have a fall at home or experience a burglary or fire? What if an accident happens away from home with no one around to help, possibly for hours? Any one of these scenarios can be a terrifying experience. Now take the what if out of any emergency anywhere with MedWatch, which now protects you at home and away. Simply press your MedWatch button or use the new automatic fall detection, and within seconds, you're speaking hands-free to the care center. Emergency services are notified as well as family and friends. Help arrives in minutes.
Finally, I can be independent and never feel alone.
It gives us all peace of mind.
Call now and receive the MedWatch equipment at no charge, including free shipping. And if yours is one of the first 100 orders, have your setup fee waived and receive a free lockbox. Even get over $3,000 in grocery savings.
Call 1-800-607-1617. That's 1-800-607-1617.
Alongside Morgan Thompson and John Bogman, J.D. Hayworth welcoming you back to our final half hour of America's Forum for this Tuesday.
And on the backside, we're going to get to a news update. We'll also talk a little bit more about the Senate races, in particular in Georgia, and a little piece of information that slipped out to the press yesterday. Well, more on that, but let's get started with the Newsmax Now update. Both immigration reform and the border crisis continue to be hot-button issues in Washington with no solution in sight. Some Democrats, like Illinois Congressman Luis Gutierrez, say President Obama may be getting ready to issue another executive order, but Republican Senator Jeff Sessions was on the Steve Malzberg show here on Newsmax TV yesterday and says any amnesty-style executive order would be an incredible assertion of executive power.
It would be an incredible assertion of executive power vis-a-vis Congress and alter the constitutional framework in a way that the founders would never have accepted. Plain law says if you're in this country illegally, you're subject to deportation and you are unable to work lawfully in our country.
Well, some political analysts say Republicans may actually move forward with impeachment plans if the president does grant amnesty to millions of illegal immigrants. This also may prove to be a costly mistake for Democrats as they enter the midterm election season. Earlier today, the chairman of the Republican National Committee, Reince Priebus, was here on America's Forum and said the president is not helping in those re-election efforts.
The reality is that
The president's not popular. He's going to drag down the Democrats this year. And what you're seeing is that even in states like Oregon and Minnesota, that the president's popularity is upside down, which then puts those races in play. They're going to pay a dear price for this overreach. Obviously, the American people are tired of it. I think for the first time in a long time in a lot of the polling, you're seeing people's frustration.
Well, Priebus went on to say that Americans are ready to set the course straight when the midterm elections come. The chairman also says that he believes Obama's failed policy will help the GOP, in fact, win back the Senate, maybe even the White House in 2016. And as you can see right here, some states where the RNC is pumping in some of those ad dollars, some of the states Republicans are looking to secure seats here in Alaska, Arkansas, North Carolina, Georgia. We talked about the candidates with Larry Sabato in a last block. Things looking pretty good. New York Times even saying so for Republicans. Now, an important internal campaign document was just leaked and has caused a political firestorm, especially in the South, especially in Georgia, and it concerns Senate candidate Michelle Nunn and a Points of Light connection to a charity that has ties to Hamas. Points of Light is an organization that Nunn used to work for. The story was broken by the National Review and also reported on by a number of outlets, including the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Eliana Johnson, media editor from the National Review, who broke the story, joins us now live via Skype. Thanks for being with us, Eliana.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be with you.
It's great to have you here with us. Tell us about this document, how you got your hands on it, and why folks like me should care about it.
Sure. The document was posted online briefly in December, I'm told by sources, and it was publicly accessible, unintentionally, of course. And so it was brought to me by sources, and it runs nearly 150 pages, a pretty comprehensive campaign plan. And I think what's of interest to the general public is that it really gives a window into what it takes for Democrats to win in the South, which is that they really need to cobble together various ethnic and racial constituencies, and there's really some candid talk about how you do that. There's reference to Jewish Americans and Asian Americans as key fundraisers, and the document notes that Michelle Nunn's position on Israel will largely determine her ability to fundraise in the Jewish community, the implication being that she should really tailor her position on Israel to maximize her ability to fundraise.
And so this brings up this issue here, and it's what the AJC pointed out most specifically. That is her connection to Islamic Relief Worldwide. How much is she connected, and how much of an issue do you think this will be here in the next coming days?
Right. So the document assesses her vulnerabilities, and one of which is the grant that the organization of which she has been a CEO of, Points of Light Foundation, gave to Islamic Relief USA, which is an arm of Islamic Relief Worldwide. And that organization has close ties to Hamas. It's been banned from Israel, and its country administrator in Gaza was arrested for funneling money to Hamas. I don't know how damaging that will be to her. The campaign is nervous and is frantically trying to distance itself, saying that it just funneled eBay donations. So we'll see how the campaign handles it, but certainly I think Points of Light should have exercised more scrutiny in terms of who it was giving money to.
All right, Eliana Johnson from the National Review, thanks so much for Skyping in, and folks can read more about this campaign document, really revealing in terms of what goes into these Senate campaigns and how they really drill down to the numbers, certainly education as well. Great talking with you.
Thanks so much.
All right, J.D. Morgan, as we heard from Eliana there, a very serious connection. We don't want to catch too many aspersions on what goes on with Michelle Nunn, but these types of things get played up in the media in all types of outlets. The National Review, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution also talking about this here. J.D., what was your take when this type of information gets out there?
Well, what happens, you have to understand, the Georgia Republicans have come through a real knockdown, drag-out. And the assumption was, well, here's Michelle Nunn. She had an easy time of it getting the nomination. In effect, and it'd be interesting to get your thought on this, Morgan, but to me, it's as if it ties Michelle Nunn's shoelaces together right out of the starting blocks. It's a very tough thing, yes. And for a first-time candidate, I think it's like to mix sporting metaphors from track and field to football. Boom, it's a real shot.
Well, those are some very serious allegations, and yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to hurt her chances a lot. And I do think it's interesting, this document that was leaked, it's almost like pulling back the rug and finding all the dirty little cockroaches underneath.
Well, it's true.
Well, it's a very candid assessment. What this is a document, and
it's her own document, too, and it's important to point that out, how this will be used. I would imagine it's already being used by outside groups and the Republican Party and David Perdue's camp. Political commercials for folks in Georgia sure to follow.
The other interesting story about this, apparently this memo counts on the active participation and help of media outlets and coverage in Georgia for the Democratic nominee.
You say that's
what
nothing
else is new? Oh yeah, not new at all. We'd like your new perspective on this. Why don't you text us your comments at Newsmax TV, #America's Forum, and we'll be back right after this.
When demand is high, so is opportunity. There is only so much silver in the world, and over half of all silver produced each year is used in industries that make products like cell phones, cars, and computers. This industrial demand is one reason silver has performed so well, and why some analysts are predicting a future surge in silver demand. Since silver is the lowest priced precious metal, shouldn't you see how silver can help diversify your portfolio? Goldline has been helping people acquire precious metals like gold and silver for over 50 years. Getting started is easy. Just call the number on your screen to receive our free investor kit. Shipping is free. You pay the same price using cash or credit card. And qualifying orders are eligible for Goldline's Price Guarantee Program. Call now to get started, because greater silver demand creates greater opportunities.
Smile!
No matter how well you provide for your family today, if you don't have life insurance, their future may be at risk. Think about what would happen if you were gone. Would they struggle to pay the bills and face an uncertain future? They don't have to. You can help guarantee those you love $200,000, $500,000, $750,000 or more with life insurance through AIG Direct. We'll help you get more for your money, up to 70% more. Just look, less than $14 a month buys a 40-year-old man a $250,000 term life policy. That's up to 3 times what you can get from other companies for the same price. No wonder millions of people rely on AIG companies. The call is free, the quote is free, and there's no obligation. Make the future more secure for those you love. Call now so you can sleep better at night.
For a free quote, call 1-800-558-5246 or visit AIGdirect.com.
Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic. Some will never return. With thy blessing, we shall prevail over the unholy forces of our enemy. Thy will be done, Almighty God. Amen.
Before we go any further here on America's Forum, we need to take some time and find out what's happening today on Midpoint. For that, let's go to our Newsmax newsroom and Ed Berliner. Ed, what do you have for us today?
JD, we got a packed show today. The president's pen means he wants to put more people to work here in America, but frankly, where are the jobs? Former State Department Ambassador Adam Morelli will be here as we discuss the Middle East. Could America handle an honest candidate in the midterms and in 2016? Mandy O'Connell's going to be here from KHOW Radio in Denver, where they are really a mile high these days. In the arena, the GOP talks about whether or not it's evolve or perish is the debate today. We'll talk about the real war on women, and in telling it like it is, quite frankly, enough already with all this talk of Mitt Romney running again in 2016. That and a whole lot more coming up at noon Eastern Time on Midpoint.
Ed, we are checking the watch. We'll make note of that. And for my friends out west, a place I used to call home, that's 9 a.m. Pacific. That's all coming up in, a little more than 20 minutes right here on
Sounds like
Newsmax
a great
TV.
show.
Thanks very much, Ed.
See you then.
And yet it's not a rah-rah patriotism that uncritically celebrates America. Rather, it's the patriotism that was referred to by Edmund Burke when he said, to love our country should be lovely. And what Burke is saying is that true patriotism is loving your country not just because it's yours, but because it's good.
And obviously scenes from Dinesh D'Souza's new motion picture, America. And there is one Florida state senator who wants to make this movie required viewing for teens in his state. We are happy now to be joined by that state senator from Florida, Alan Hayes. here to discuss his new bill to make the film required viewing. Senator, we thank you for your time. Welcome to America's Forum.
Well, good morning. It's good to be with you.
Now, Senator, I was coming out of the movie just the other day, and your bill has made a splash because I heard two other patrons in the theater saying, oh, that was a great movie. And I hear someone in the state legislature wants kids to have to watch this thing. Do you think you can get this bill passed, Senator?
I certainly do. I don't file bills for spectacular reasons or to make statements or anything. I file bills for success, and I certainly plan to see this one across the finish line and get the governor's autograph.
Now, Senator, you say really the point behind this bill is to encourage discussion and a frank opening of minds. So you say you wouldn't mind a liberal film also being shown. Any thoughts on which ones you'd like?
Not really. I'd leave that up to the curriculum designers or the individual teachers, quite honestly. You know, if you're only speaking the truth will set you free. And I will put Americanism and patriotism right up beside any other system that anybody wants to put at it. And you put the two, give them honest presentations, and I guarantee you that Americanism is going to win every time.
So am I to gather that your goal is really not so much to promote the views in this film, but to encourage people to think outside the box and go further than just the textbooks that they learn in school?
Well, honestly, it's a shame that it's considered thinking outside the box. What I want to do is to make sure that the students in Florida have an accurate portrayal of history. And I truly believe that what they're learning now is not completely accurate. And this movie puts the falsehoods out there, and then it shows the rebuttal to those falsehoods, I think, in a very professional way, in a very intellectual way. And my word to anybody of another thought process, bring it on. Are you afraid of the truth? And if you're not, then don't object to showing this movie. But there's one other thing I'd like to add about the movie. My bill will require that every 8th grader and every 11th grader in Florida see this movie, unless their parents send a note asking for their students to be excused from it. So it's not like the parents have to allow their children to see it.
Sure, and that's
only on parental consent.
And that's an important provision there, Senator Hayes. But I also want to ask you and go back to what you just mentioned about the mistruths, the things that are being taught in public schools in Florida today. Do you have any specific examples of some of what you just talked about?
Not specifically. I've seen some of the textbooks and some of the material in them. I filed a bill, and the governor signed the bill into law this past year, this past session, having to do with instructional material adoption by the local school boards. And the bill provides an avenue whereby citizens who object to the use of certain instructional materials they now have an appeal process to their local school board. And there's where you can get into the individual things. I've seen some of the math, I've seen some of the reading assignments, I've seen some of the history books, and I'm terrifically disappointed that our students would be exposed to such things as that. So I think that there are a lot of areas for improvement. Quite honestly, I think just the educational system failure is the biggest reason that the current occupant of the White House sits there. I think his occupancy of the White House is an indictment of our educational system all across America. And we need to get back to teaching the truth. We need to remove politics from the educational system. We need to teach history as it happened and teach it truthfully, showing the whole story. And that's what this movie does quite well.
Senator, about a minute and a half left. There's an interesting Gallup poll that's come out. The findings, I think, pertain to our discussion today. For example, the question was asked, are you proud of America? And the answer is 85% say they're proud. But back in the early, right after the turn of the century, in the early 2000s, the level of pride was in the 90s. Why do you think there's been a decrease in pride in America? And will showing a movie like America reverse this trend among high school students?
Well, I don't think just showing the movie alone will reverse the trend. I think that the numbers are down because the citizens of America are seeing the performance of our Congress. They're seeing the performance of the administration. They're seeing our foreign policy abject failures, and they're not proud of our abandonment of Israel. They're not proud of the way that other foreign relations have been going on, and I think it's a real shame.
State Senator Alan Hayes, we thank you for your time. We'll have to leave it right there. Discussion has certainly been prompted by your legislation, sir, and we look forward to visiting with you again in the not too distant future.
All right. Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you, sir. So the discussion is going on right here. We'd like your input on this. Why don't you tweet us your remarks at Newsmax TV, hashtag America's Forum. There's also newsmaxtv.com/comment. And don't forget Facebook. America's Forum will continue following this time out.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ben Carson. Obamacare isn't working for all Americans. Let's stop, take a deep breath, and recognize it's seriously flawed. Let's put patients first by focusing on free market solutions Americans can be proud of. America is blessed with a creative spirit that has conquered diseases, ended epidemics, and given millions of people the opportunity to live longer, healthier lives. We can once again have the greatest healthcare system on earth if Washington gets out of the way. If you want to hold Washington accountable and truly save American healthcare, join me and sign our petition today.
Call 1-800-425-6299 and sign the petition to save our healthcare. Call 1-800-425-6299 or visit our website and sign the petition today.
Let's work together and save American healthcare, sign the petition, and unleash the great American spirit again.
American Legacy PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
How long have you had your car insurance?
How long have I had my car insurance? I don't know, 8, 10 years?
I couldn't tell you, but things were a lot less expensive back then.
If you're 50 or over, you should take a new look at your auto insurance. You may be overpaying.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Old policy, old rates.
And thanks to your experience behind the wheel, you might save $404 by switching to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford. Plus, you'll get benefits that reward your driving record, like our promise that you won't be dropped.
Wait, you won't drop me? Seriously?
That's right, you won't be dropped. And if you know anyone who's been dropped by their insurance company, you know that's a hassle you don't need.
Especially these days.
Plus, you'll get Recover Care, which helps pay for everyday needs like house cleaning, lawn care, and pet services if you're injured in an accident.
So my auto insurance is going to help pay the house cleaning if I'm injured?
Did you say lawn care?
And if I can't walk my dog, they'll help me pay someone to do it for me.
Call the number on your screen to switch to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford and be rewarded for your experience behind the wheel.
Recover Care, auto insurance that helps take care of me. Now I've seen it all.
You won't drop me, you take care of me as well as my car, and you offer savings to switch. It's unbelievable.
If you're 50 or over, call now to request your free quote.
I'm gonna call.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
Call the Hartford at the number on your screen to request your free quote. 1-888-529-1797. We'll even send you this free calculator. Call 1-888-529-1797 now. Why wait?
The first time I heard the word grandma, what? At my age? No way. But then you hold him in your arms, oh, and everything changes. This is my first grandchild, Stephen, and I want to be a part of his life for a long, long time. But you can't take care of your family until you take care of yourself.
And now with Fast 5 from Nutrisystem, you can lose weight fast. Lose 5 pounds your first week or your money back, guaranteed.
Nutrisystem helps me do just that. I lost 50 pounds, and I feel great.
Order your 28-day My Weight plan right now, and we'll rush you the Fast 5 free. You'll get 1 week of fantastic energizing shakes to rev your metabolism, 1 week of delicious Craving Crusher shakes to crush those cravings, plus 1 week of meals absolutely free.
Grandma? Yeah, I can own that. I'm a grandma. Don't wait. Call Nutrisystem today.
Start losing weight today.
Call now, 877-316-SIZE, and lose your first 5 pounds free.
J.D. Hayworth alongside Morgan Thompson and John Bogman. Gang, it's the final segment of America's Forum where we hear from you at home via social media on the ongoing border crisis.
Oh yeah, and you guys always have a lot to say about this one. Air Force Master Sergeant says, my issue is the way they are coming here and the reason they are coming here now. They are doing it illegally, and they are doing it because our president is making them believe they'll be allowed to stay if they can just get here. That is the issue I have with this.
And no, 34212, illegals are not the responsibility of American taxpayers. All illegals should be forced to walk back where they came from.
Solo Jazz Guitar says this: first, seal the border. Second, send the illegals home. Help them help themselves in their own country.
And Really says, I will tell you what he, referring to Obama, should do. Practice the laws as written in the Constitution and follow what we the people have to say.
That's a novel idea.
Right?
Rugden writes in, I really doubt those children are criminals. However, they are children. So where are the parents? What are we to do with them? Place them in foster care, or do we wait for the parents to follow? Now there is your criminal element. The fact is they are illegal. Send them back. They are not our responsibility, except to the extent we make the parents and the leaders of those countries accountable.
You know, and a lot of them, reports have come out to say they're not such young children and they are criminals.
We heard JD mention that earlier.
Yep, the Pew report had over 80%. One final comment from Shore Girl. The point is that right now, the law of the land prohibits illegal immigration. Congress makes the laws. Therefore, the Congress is responsible for changing the laws. The president is responsible for executing the laws passed by Congress, even if he doesn't like them. In this case, he is apparently contemplating not executing the law of the land because he does not like the law. So those are the comments. I guess certainly Shore Girl has a point. You can make the argument that it was ever thus. What makes it interesting in this case is that this president, who heretofore has said, look, Congress has the role to make laws, accurately saying that, is now saying, maybe there are a few things I can do with executive powers, though he'd never say it this way for all intents and purposes. He wants to grant amnesty via an executive order. If that in fact happens, if the response I expect comes forward, it will be a full-blown constitutional crisis because the president will be acting outside his scope of authority. This is not just an academic exercise. As we heard from different people we spoke with today, people are burning up the phone lines to their senators and their members of Congress. And quite frankly, if the president steps aside from this, Morgan, I expect that the will of the people will put a stop to this notion of continued amnesty.
We just don't have the social services to go around. We have enough of a crisis in the people that are here legally. Our own citizens are having trouble with access to health care. Unemployment's at 18%. This is just going to keep making it worse and worse. We have our own problems for legal citizens here.
Last night I was thinking about the sequester and all the scare tactics that came right before the sequester, and you hear a lot of that right now on the immigration issue and the border crisis. I've talked about this. We know it's going to get more expensive by the day, but what will happen if Congress does not act on this issue, as some are saying we should not do because the price tag is too high, at least for the proposals that are out there in Congress? Will it really be making things worse? I guess we're going to find out because it does not appear as if Congress is any closer to a resolution.
The price tag's too high not to.
The worst case scenario would be for Congress to leave town and the president to enact, via executive order, amnesty. I would hope within the House Republican Conference, plans are being made to extend their time there, because leaving town and letting the president use his pen and phone and powers he doesn't have, I don't really think that's an option. That's the way I see it.
Well, he is a constitutional scholar. Based on his background, he thinks he knows better than the Supreme Court. We'll see what happens.
The only thing we don't have more of today, Morgan, is time. It's been great having you here, John, as always, and of course, you at home. Now, don't forget, Coming up later today on Newsmax TV, 3 o'clock Eastern, it'll be the Steve Malzberg Show. But next, we're going to make way for Midpoint with Ed Berliner at high noon. Stay brave, stay free, stay tuned.